very remarkable work, and I'm sure that will be a grand success. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for your blessing, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. I would now request the Honorable Chief
Wait,
Guest
wait,
of
wait, wait, sir. So, ma'am, please. I request Colonel Venkat, sir, ex-director, faculty development, sir, AICTE, to say some few words, sir. Colonel Venkat, sir.
Abdesh, thanks a lot. It's an absolute honor to be coming on your platform, Sir Madan Mohan Malviya, University of Technology, and I sincerely thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir Dr. J.P. Pandey, sir, and Brajesh Kumar, sir, and Abdesh, sir, yourself, because I understand and appreciate the way this particular MOU was concluded and the way that there was an enthusiasm in your university to get these programs done. And that is what leads us to always appreciate and understand that education is something which is a never ending. It does not limit to any age limit or anything. The way your university actually came forward in conducting these programs, I think it was an example for us also at AICT to get that much more motivated in conducting these programs. So the credit for this goes to your university, sir, and ably led by the visionary Vice Chancellor, sir. It's so honorable to listen to Professor Chatterjee, sir, in today's forum, and the zeal and the enthusiasm with which sir was speaking. I think, sir, we have done hardly anything till now as far as the education is concerned. Singly, in case if you wish to know, we can contribute collectively many more things. We can collectively come forward and take the education to an absolute greater heights. And to that, I compliment everybody for taking on the mandate of the MOU towards conducting all the training programs for faculty members, subsequently to librarians, and then even to the non-teachers. So it's in a sequential manner. Quite obviously, you people would have spaced it out, but suffice to say that today when we are connected, we are doing the first of the programs, and what an apt topic that has been chosen. Let me also tell you, I have been at training programs, multiple training programs. I am yet to see a faculty development program at university level being done on examination reforms. So this is one of the first for me also. And this is where I say that your university takes the lead in many activities. Hopefully the people who have got connected, participants from across the university, multiple other institutes of Uttarakhand and across the country will be benefiting from this, and they will go back a much better person at the end of this training program. And I can see the list of speakers that you people have called, all very capable, qualified. And when best speakers speak, it is for us to take the best from them and then make sure that we implement it as in our day-to-day teaching and learning process. Compliments to everybody, sir. Best wishes. Jai Hind. It's a pleasure and honor to be connected with you always.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, please. Continue.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. Now, I would now request the Honorable Chief Guest of Inaugural Function and the Patron of FDP on Examination Reforms, Professor J.P. Pandey, sir, to please address the audience and shower his esteemed blessings upon each one of us.
आज मदन मोहन मालवीय टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी गोरखपुर और AICT के जॉइंट कोलैबोरेशन से आयोजित होने वाले इस 1 वीक जो फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम है एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर, उसके लिए सबसे पहले मैं प्रोफेसर सहस्रबुद्धे सर को और AICT की पूरी टीम को और स्पेशल थैंक्स टू कर्नल वेंकट जिन्होंने इसको हमारा जो MOU था उसको इनिशिएट कराया और MOU को फाइनल शेप में लेके गए, और उन्होंने कर्नल वेंकट साहब ने बड़ी मदद करी हम लोगों की विश्वविद्यालय की, और उसके कारण से तो स्पेशल थैंक्स टू कर्नल वेंकट एंड प्रोफेसर सहस्रबुद्धे सर, उनका और उनकी पूरी जो टीम है उनका हार्दिक अभिनंदन है इस 1 वीक FDP में। आज इस कार्यक्रम में हमारे गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हैं प्रोफेसर चटर्जी, वो हमारे पुराने गार्जियन भी हैं, सीनियर हैं हमारे, और वो भी जब भी कभी उनको हम लोगों ने अप्रोच किया कि हमें आर यू कंफर्टेबल इन हिंदी? ब्रिजेश कैन?
Yes, everyone, please sir.
Yeah. सी तो उन्होंने जब भी कभी हम लोगों को जरूरत पड़ी उसमें काफी सहयोग किया, उनका भी हार्दिक अभिनंदन। इस एफडीपी में हमारे जो कोऑर्डिनेटर्स हैं इस एफडीपी के एआईसीटी की तरफ से डॉक्टर अमित श्रीवास्तव जी, और विश्वविद्यालय के जो परीक्षा नियंत्रक हैं डॉक्टर एएन तिवारी, जो यूनिवर्सिटी प्रोग्राम कोऑर्डिनेटर है, यूनिवर्सिटी के कोऑर्डिनेटर शेखर यादव और अवधेश कुमार, इन सभी का, और जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट हमारे साथ कनेक्टेड हैं, विश्वविद्यालय के फैकल्टी मेंबर्स जो दूसरे विश्वविद्यालय के हैं फैकल्टी मेंबर्स, उन सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन है। मैं इस जो हमारी विश्वविद्यालय की टीम है और एआईसीटी को हम बधाई देना चाहते हैं कि हम लोगों को ये अवसर दिया उन्होंने, एआईसीटी ने, कि हम लोग एक फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम कराएं और डिफरेंट टॉपिक्स पे कराएं। जब हमारे पास आया तो हमने जो हमारे कोऑर्डिनेटर्स हैं उनको बोला कि सबसे पहले एआईसीटी ने डाल रखा है एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर, और एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर हम लोग करते हैं और मल्टीपल करेंगे। जैसे अभी आज एक पहला एफडीपी है, कुछ दिनों के बाद हम लोग उसको एडवांस करते जाएंगे। अभी आज एलिमेंट्री हमारे जितने भी स्पीकर्स होंगे वो देंगे, देन वी विल गो इन एडवांस मैनर। हम लोगों ने ये टॉपिक इसलिए चुना कि एआईसीटी की तरफ से एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर एक मैनुअल बहुत पहले रिलीज किया गया था, लेकिन मैं चूंकि एग्जामिनेशन कंट्रोलर के रूप में मैंने कई यूनिवर्सिटीज में और काफी अच्छे समय तक सर्विसेज दी हैं, तो इसलिए मैं समझ सकता हूं कि हमारे पास एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर क्या करना चाहिए था और हम उस दिशा में उतना प्रोग्रेस नहीं कर पाए। मैं आपको एक अपना व्यक्तिगत अनुभव के साथ शेयर करना चाहता हूं। जब मैं केएनआईटी का डायरेक्टर हुआ तो हमने एक पूरा करीब 40-45 पेज का जो एआईसीटी का वो मैनुअल है एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म का, वो मैंने प्रिंट किया, अपने ऑफिस को बोला प्रिंट करने के लिए, और हम अपने कंट्रोलर को बुलाए और एडिशनल कंट्रोलर केएनआईटी के थे, उनको मैंने दिया कि ये आप एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म है, इस पे हम लोगों को काम करना है। क्योंकि अभी एनईपी तो अभी 2020 में आई, हम 2017 की बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो पूरा डॉक्यूमेंट है। ज्यादातर लोग क्या करते हैं, उस डॉक्यूमेंट को पढ़ना नहीं चाहते, और पढ़ते हैं तो उसको कैसे प्रैक्टिकली इंप्लीमेंट करना है वो नहीं करते। और आज तक कभी हम लोगों ने ये नहीं सोचा कि ये जो हम असेसमेंट करते हैं बच्चे का, उसका मेथोडोलॉजी क्या है। एक जिसने किसी ने बना रखा होगा शुरू में कि 5 क्वेश्चन पूछे जाएंगे, सब सेक्शंस होंगे, और मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि इस पर कभी भी थर्ड प्रोसेस कंटिन्यू नहीं किया गया है और कभी डिबेट नहीं हुआ, कभी डिस्कशन नहीं हुआ कि इसको कैसे इंप्रूव किया जाए। एआईसीटी ने शुरू किया इसके उनको क्योंकि आज भी अगर बहुत सारे फैकल्टी मेंबर्स से पूछ लीजिए कि ये क्वेश्चन पेपर जो बना हुआ है, ये क्वेश्चन पेपर में हम लड़के का क्या असेसमेंट करना चाहते हैं और क्या क्या असेसमेंट हमारा आउटकम आएगा जब ये क्वेश्चन पेपर लड़का हमारा, ये हम आपको 2000 एनईपी और ये जो एनबीए ने रिगरस ट्रेनिंग कराई हम लोगों को आउटकम बेस्ड एजुकेशन पर, तब जब एनबीए में परफॉर्मा भरने जाने लगा तब लोगों को लगा कि नहीं नहीं साहब ये है वो है। 2017 में मैंने केएनआईटी में जो क्वेश्चन पेपर था, मैंने उनको बोला कि आप लड़के को बताओ कि ये जो क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, ये क्वेश्चन पेपर कहाँ से, किस जो आपका जो एआईसीटी का जो मैनुअल था वो एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म का, उसमें K1 to K6 जो एक मैट्रिक्स है, उसको हमने कहा कि लड़के को बताओ तो सही कम से कम। तो हम लोगों ने क्वेश्चन, आपको बताओ इतना रेजिस्टेंस आया फैकल्टी मेंबर की तरफ से, अरे ये क्या कर रहे हैं, क्वेश्चन पेपर में जगह की बर्बादी है। मैंने कहा नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, बर्बादी तो होती है बहुत सारी चीजें, लेकिन आप इसको बनाएंगे और टेबल बनाइए। क्या है कि हम कोई भी यहाँ पर कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है, हम सभी फैकल्टी मेंबर्स हैं, तो हमें कोई अपने कमी को एक्सेप्ट करने में कोई दिक्कत नहीं होनी चाहिए कि हम ये नहीं सोचना चाहते कि ये हम क्यों बच्चे के लिए कर रहे हैं, हम क्यों करें। इसका सबसे पहले पूछते हैं कि इसका पर्पस क्या है। पर्पस तो हम सिखा ही रहे हैं कि आपको पर्पस क्या है। तो हम लोगों ने काफी प्रेस करके फैकल्टी मेंबर से कहा कि क्वेश्चन पेपर बनाओ और उसके पीछे एक टेबल दो, मैट्रिक्स बनाओ हमारा K1 ये 2017 की जो हमारा इवेंट सेमेस्टर का एग्जाम हुआ केएनआईटी में, उसमें ये क्वेश्चन पेपर में लेके आए। ये मैं प्रैक्टिस कैसे लेके आया, मैं चेयरमैन था एनबीए की एक विजिट में, सो वी वर आस्किंग कॉलेजेस टू प्रोड्यूस क्वेश्चन पेपर की जो एआईसीटी को कंप्लाई करता है जो एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म्स है। तो ये चीजें हैं, तो ये पहल इसलिए करनी हम लोगों को एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर पड़ रही है और अभी आगे लगातार करनी पड़ेगी। अब देखिए एनईपी आया, एनईपी में और भी सारा चीजें हम माइक्रो एनालिसिस करने वाले हैं। हम बच्चे को मल्टीपल एंट्री दे रहे हैं, मल्टीपल एग्जिट दे रहे हैं। जब मल्टीपल एग्जिट दे रहे हैं तो हम लड़के को, जैसे ये इंजीनियरिंग है, इनसे कोर्सेज हैं, फार्मेसी कोर्सेज है, कोई भी हमारा जो असेसमेंट होना चाहिए वो साइंटिफिक होना चाहिए, मेजरेबल होना चाहिए। कैसे हम साइंस इसका इवेल्युएशन कर रहे हैं, कैसे हम असेसमेंट कर रहे हैं, और इस असेसमेंट से इस बच्चे को क्या फायदा होने वाला है, और हमारा जो पर्पस है असेसमेंट का, वी आर गेटिंग सैलरी, वी आर टीचिंग स्टूडेंट्स, वी आर गिविंग डिग्री। तो बेसिक पर्पस ये तो है नहीं कि हमारे को सैलरी मिले, बेसिक पर्पस ये है कि हम स्टूडेंट को कैसे अच्छी शिक्षा दें और वो एम्प्लॉयबल हो और सोसाइटी को जाके उसको डिलीवर करे जो उसके पास उसकी एबिलिटी है। तो ये सबसे पहले एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म्स है। और मैं वेंकट साहब आपको बताना चाहता हूं, ये अभी हम लोगों को बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर स्पेशली करना है, क्योंकि बहुत कमियां हैं। मैं एग्जामिनेशन कंट्रोलर रहा यूपी टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी, जो इस समय एकेटीयू का भी मैं एग्जामिनेशन कंट्रोलर रहा। मैंने भारत सरकार के एक यूनिवर्सिटी में एग्जामिनेशन कंट्रोलर के रूप में देखा। मैंने पाया कि हम लोगों को अगर रिफॉर्म करेंगे, बच्चों की सहूलियत के लिए रिफॉर्म करते हैं हम, बच्चों के इंटरेस्ट के लिए। ऐसा है कि आप ये मानिए एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म में और कैरिकुलम रिफॉर्म में क्या कैरिकुलम आप रिफॉर्म कर सकते हैं, हम क्या पढ़ा रहे हैं। असेसमेंट में अब आपको एक नमूना बताऊं, यूपी टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी, जो एकेटीयू ही बोले क्योंकि पुराना नाम मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूं, तो अगर बीटेक करना है किसी लड़के को तो उसे 50 सब्जेक्ट पास करने पड़ते हैं। क्रेडिट में हम नहीं जानते, 50 सब्जेक्ट हैं उनके पास बीटेक में टोटल। लेकिन एक कंप्यूटर साइंस का बीटेक का लड़का है, अगर उसका गलती से फर्स्ट ईयर में केमिस्ट्री में बैक पेपर आ गया और उसे वो क्लियर नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो वो पास नहीं कर पाएगा बीटेक। हमें एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म के माध्यम से, अपने जो एग्जामिनेशन के ऑर्डिनेंस में मॉडिफिकेशन के माध्यम से एक प्लेटफॉर्म देना। जबकि केमिस्ट्री के सब्जेक्ट की उसके पूरे 50 सब्जेक्ट में वो 49 सब्जेक्ट क्लियर कर चुका है, बट ही इज फेलिंग 1 सब्जेक्ट और वो बीटेक में रटका पड़ा है। ऐसे आपको बताऊं, 2016 when I joined as a controller of examination in एकेटीयू, तो हम लोगों के पास 45,000 लड़के ऐसे थे जो एक सब्जेक्ट में, 2 सब्जेक्ट में, और वो भी मोस्टली फर्स्ट ईयर के सब्जेक्ट्स में। होता यह है जैसे कंप्यूटर साइंस का बच्चा है और वो इंजीनियरिंग मैकेनिक्स में फेल कर रहा है और कीप ऑन फेलिंग, तो हमें कोई एक विंडो देनी पड़ेगी कि आप ठीक है इतना क्रेडिट पास करके जाओ और आपको बीटेक की डिग्री मिल जाएगी। और इंजीनियर पेपर नहीं, उसको कह दो इंजीनियरिंग मैकेनिक्स के बराबर का क्रेडिट कोई दूसरा क्रेडिट लेके पास करके जाओ। हम लोगों ने जो एग्जामिनेशन के रूल्स में रिफॉर्म करा, एक ग्रेस मार्क्स दिया जाता था। ग्रेस मार्क्स देने में क्या था, मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देना चाहता हूं कि हर वर्ष, हर ईयर में a student can get maximum 10 grace marks but not more than 5 marks in one subject। ये एक रूल था एग्जामिनेशन का, एकेटीयू का। तो अच्छा, उसमें क्या हुआ कि जब हम लोग कोई भी रिफॉर्म करते हैं या कोई भी केस बनाते हैं या कोई भी फार्मूला बनाते हैं, तो वो बेस्ड ऑन जो मेजरमेंट्स आते हैं, मेजरमेंट्स के बेसिस पर सिमुलेट करते हैं। तो हम लोगों का क्या हुआ कि हमें लगा कि एक लड़का आया जो फाइनल ईयर के 7th सेमेस्टर में ही गॉट कैरी ओवर एंड ही नीड 11 मार्क्स ग्रेस के चाहिए थे उसको क्लियर करने के लिए। उसको हम नहीं देते, उसको हमने कहा हमारा ऑर्डिनेंस परमिट नहीं करता है और आपको वी कैन गिव यू मैक्सिमम 5 मार्क्स। फॉर दैट एडिशनल 6 ग्रेस मार्क्स ही इज गोइंग टू रिपीट 1 ईयर, जबकि उसका फर्स्ट ईयर में ही गॉट 75% मार्क्स, सेकेंड ईयर में 75% मार्क्स, थर्ड ईयर में 75% प्लस मार्क्स थे उसके, बट फाइनल ईयर में अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो बीमार पड़ गया और उसको वो 14 नंबर आए उसके, 11 नंबर उन्हें 19 नंबर आए, 11 नंबर और चाहिए थे, नहीं पाए। तो हम लोगों ने बड़ा सीरियसली थिंक किया कि ये तो बड़ा गड़बड़ है। अब आप इसमें 2 सिनारियो है। एक मैंने आपको ये केस बताया कि जो लड़का फर्स्ट ईयर में भी 75 पाया, सेकेंड ईयर में भी 75 पाया, थर्ड ईयर में भी 75 पाया, और फाइनल ईयर में एक पेपर में वो गलती से 11 नंबर का ग्रेस उसको प्रॉब्लम है। अब दूसरा सिनारियो देखिए जो हमारा रूल कंट्राडिक्ट कर रहा है। एक बच्चा जो फर्स्ट ईयर में भी 10 नंबर का ग्रेस लेके क्लियर हो गया, फर्स्ट ईयर इज क्लियर, सेकेंड ईयर में भी 10 नंबर का ग्रेस लिया, थर्ड ईयर में भी 10 नंबर का ग्रेस लेके क्लियर हो गया, और फाइनल ईयर में भी ग्रेस लेके 10 नंबर क्लियर हो जाएगा, मान लो आप। तो अब आपके पास दो बच्चे हैं, दो बेंच मार्क्स हैं। एक बच्चा जो ऑलराउंड 75 प्लस है, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली ही नीड्स 11 मार्क्स इन वन पेपर, और आपका एक लड़का ऐसा है जो हर साल 40 नंबर ले गया अपना, जो ऐसा हमारा क्राइटेरिया। तो हमारा जो रूल है वो मिसयूज हो रहा है बाय समबडी, एंड जो अच्छा लड़का है उसको हम डिप्राइव कर रहे हैं। ही विल हैव टू रिपीट 1 ईयर। तो हम लोगों ने, जो उस समय वाइस चांसलर थे विनय पाठक जी, और इस पे काफी मंथन की कि चलो कैसे करना है। हम लोगों ने रिफॉर्म लाया कि चलो ठीक है, यू कैन अवेल ऑल 40 मार्क्स इन ऑल योर 4 ईयर्स। मैक्सिमम मार्क्स आप 15 नंबर एक ईयर में भी ले सकते हैं। तो सो दैट कि जो भी हमारा जो स्टैंडर्ड जो है, वर्ल्ड स्टैंडर्ड जो आपका एनबीए का है, वो डिप्राइव ना हो। इसके लिए कितना विरोध हुआ, लोगों ने कहा कि ये हो गया, ऐसे लड़के खराब हो जाएंगे। लेकिन हम लोगों ने जब डिबेट किया एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल में, अपने एकेडमिक काउंसिल में, हमने कहा कि ये दो बच्चे बताओ आप, ये एक बच्चा जो हर साल 10 नंबर का ग्रेस मिल के 4 साल में डिग्री क्लियर किया है, एक लड़का जो 3 साल में लगातार 75% मार्क्स पा रहा है, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली 11 मार्क्स उसको चाहिए, और वो एक पेपर क्लियर नहीं कर पा रहा है इन 7 सेमेस्टर। ही विल हैव टू रिपीट 1 ईयर, मतलब उसका जो कैरी ओवर पेपर होते होते 1 साल लग जाता है। तो वो बीटेक कर रहा है 5 साल में, और वो लड़का 40 नंबर के ग्रेस के साथ 4 साल में बीटेक करके मार्केट में चला गया। इस रिफॉर्म को लाने में हम लोगों को बड़ी कठिनाई हुई, एंड विद दिस रिफॉर्म वी हैव क्लियर्ड अराउंड 45,000+ स्टूडेंट्स। तो ये रिफॉर्म कैसे होता है, रिफॉर्म का आउटकम क्या आता है, और रिफॉर्म का इम्पैक्ट सोसाइटी पर क्या पड़ता है, वो हम लोगों ने करा है। और मैं बड़ा आगे चली हूँ कि इस विश्वविद्यालय में भी जो हमारे एग्जामिनेशन की टीम है, जो हमारे प्रोफेसर्स हैं, हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं, वो भी एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म को, एग्जामिनेशन को सिंप्लीफाई कर रहे हैं। और हमारा हमने ये कहा है कि जैसे कोई बच्चा बिना पढ़े पास ना हो, बट अपॉर्चुनिटी उसे देनी चाहिए। क्योंकि इस समय पहले क्या होता था कि एक एग्जाम होता था ऑड सेमेस्टर में, एक इवन सेमेस्टर में। अगर गलती से लड़के का ऑड का कैरी ओवर है तो ही विल हैव टू अपीयर इन ऑड सेमेस्टर। व्हाई नॉट वी कैन गिव अपॉर्चुनिटी एज एंड व्हेन ही रिक्वायर, जैसा विदेशों में होता है। वहां तो लड़का आके टीचर से कहता है कि साहब हम तैयारी कर लिए हैं, अब आप हमारा एग्जाम ले लीजिए। तो हमें एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म पर बड़ा सीरियसली थिंक करना पड़ेगा। हमारे जो डिस्टिंग्विश स्पीकर्स हैं उन्होंने वो बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म देंगे हम लोगों को आगे कैरी ऑन करने के लिए। और मैं ये रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ जितने फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को कि जब भी आप असेसमेंट करें तो एनालिटिकल असेसमेंट होता है, बट साइंटिफिक मैनर में होना चाहिए कि हम असेसमेंट कैसे कर रहे हैं। ऐसा है कि मैंने किसी लड़के की आंसर बुक चेक करी और दूसरे ने चेक करी, उसमें 10% 15% का वेरिएशन होता है। अगर हम साइंटिफिक इवेल्युएशन करेंगे तो ये वेरिएशन नहीं होगा। 10% 15% का वेरिएशन एक लड़के को पास कर सकता है और एक लड़के को फेल करके उसे बैक कर देगा। तो ये बड़ा ही सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स है कि हमें करना ये चाहिए कि हमें साइंटिफिक एक पैटर्न बनाना चाहिए। हमारा जो क्वेश्चन पेपर, अभी बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन पेपर बनते हैं, बहुत फैकल्टी मेंबर क्वेश्चन बनाए, बट दे नेवर थिंक कि डिफिकल्टी लेवल हम कहाँ से चेक कर रहे हैं, कोई नहीं करता क्वेश्चन पेपर। अच्छा, दूसरा आज एक इस समय और अच्छी मतलब ये दिक्कत हो गई है हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में, क्वेश्चन पेपर बनाने के लिए लोगों का इंटरेस्ट नहीं है। और क्वेश्चन पेपर नहीं बनाने के लिए तो मैं तो एक मॉडल हम लोग उस पर काम कर रहे हैं कि हम क्वेश्चन डेटाबेस बनाएं और क्वेश्चन डेटाबेस के आधार पर हमारा जो सॉफ्टवेयर हो वही क्वेश्चन पेपर क्रिएट करें। तो क्या होगा कि हमारे उसको हम अपडेट करते रहें और अपडेट करते रहें, उसका मॉडरेशन करते रहें और अच्छा सा उसके अंदर कंप्यूटर हमारा डिफिकल्टी लेवल फिट इन कर सकता है जो हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से होगा। और बाकी मैनुअली नहीं हो सकता है। क्वेश्चन पेपर का रिम्यूनरेशन देते हैं विश्वविद्यालय, सभी लोग देते हैं, बट कोई भी कट पेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी से है, एक ही पेपर को वहां के क्वेश्चन उतार के वहां डालते हैं। एक थोड़ी सी कमी रहेगी, लेकिन अच्छा है हम लोगों ने शुरू किया है। और एग्जामिनेशन रिफॉर्म में सबका सहयोग चाहिए और सभी फैकल्टी मेंबर्स का। केवल कंट्रोलर ऑफ एग्जामिनेशन का या वाइस चांसलर का या डायरेक्टर का रोल नहीं होता है। यहाँ हर फैकल्टी मेंबर जो उस सिस्टम के अंदर है उस सभी का रोल है इस रिफॉर्म को और अच्छा बनाने में जो बेस मॉडल हम लोगों को AICT ने दिया है। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ एक बार और सभी लोगों को ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं, इस जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट हैं, और हमारा विशेष थैंक्स है कर्नल वेंकट, प्लीज कन्वे आवर पूरे विश्वविद्यालय की तरफ से चेयरमैन साहब को हम लोगों का धन्यवाद आप कन्वे करिएगा, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है आपसे। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
पांडे सर, एब्सोल्युटली सर, आपने जो बोला each and every word. And be rest assured, sir, I will convey in verbatim to the chairman, vice chairman, and member secretary the manner in which this program is being taken and initiated in Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology, sir. But wonderful, sir. Aapka experience sunke to I can only tell one thing, sir, that I would also like to be part of this program. Let me also understand more about examination reforms, because AICT, sir, not only has taken out the examination reforms policy, but in the last 2 years, we have conducted more than 53-day workshops, on examination reforms. So my understanding or knowledge of examination reforms is also reasonably well, sir. But आपका सुनने के बाद तो I am getting an impression, sir, मुझे आपसे भी और सीखना पड़ेगा, sir. Now this is what I always keep saying. It is जब participants जो हमारे साथ connected हैं, उनके लिए, sir, I don't think so there can be a better opportunity than this. If people take this seriously, sir, our education system not only will get improved, but we would be the finest in the world, with the world copying us in the times to come. Thank you, sir, and आपके ये points surely convey हो जाएंगे अगले आधे घंटे के अंदर ही, sir.
कर्नल सर, मैं यहाँ प्लेटफॉर्म से ये भी बताना चाहूंगा कि जो हमारी टीम है और ऑनरेबल वाइस चांसलर सर ने हमें गाइडलाइन दिया था कि experts should be from means reputed institutions. So we have really NITTR Chandigarh 2 experts and 7 experts from NITTR Chennai. So they are the experts in this area, and among that we have also you, sir, as a ex-director of AICT FDP, sir, and I'm really very hopeful that when you take your lecture, AICT Quality Initiative surely help you out, all the participants. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
ब्रिजेश से मैं जर्नी स्टार्ट करने जा रहा हूँ. आई एम वेटिंग फॉर दिस प्रोग्राम. सो मैं सबसे नमस्ते.
Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Soumya, please.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for your incredible words. Your blessings will always keep us motivated throughout the FDP. Also, thanks to B. Venkat, sir, and Brijesh Kumar, sir, for your valuable words. Now, may I request Dr. Avdesh Kumar, sir, coordinator of FDP on examination reform, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Soumya. Chief guest of this faculty development program on examination reforms and Honorable Vice Chancellor of Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology, Gorakhpur, Professor J.P. Pandey, sir, who also happens to be the patron of this program, along with AICT Chairman, Dr. Anil D. Sahasrabudhe, sir. Guest of honor, Professor S. Chatterjee, sir, and my guru, and is superannuated from NITTR Chandigarh, and is not only the expert in electrical engineering, but also you'll encounter through his lecture that he is expert in educational technology as well. The special guest for today's inaugural ceremony, immediate past chairman AICT FDP Cell, Colonel V. Venkat sir, whose presence has made this inaugural ceremony very, very beautiful. So, coordinator of the program, Dr. Amit Kumar Srivastava, Director Faculty Development Cell, AICT, Professor A.M. Tiwari sir, Controller of Examination, MUT Gorakhpur, Professor Brijesh Kumar sir, professor in electronics engineering department, who also happens to be the registrar of the university, and whose efforts and working with him is really, really very nice to do any job with him. University program coordinator, my fellow colleague and very gentleman person, Dr. Shekhar Yadav, who has really put a lot of efforts for this program. The deans of this university, the heads of the different departments, my dear colleagues, esteemed faculty members from this university and outside institutions, and also all other organizing teammates. It's my proud privilege to propose the vote of thanks in this inaugural ceremony of 1 week long faculty development program on examination reforms, jointly organized by Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology, Gorakhpur and AICT New Delhi. First of all, I would like to express my deep sense of regards to Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir for giving his precious time spite of his busy schedule. We have seen just he has left for the his programs. I also thank Sir for giving the opportunity of such kind. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would like to convey my gratitude and heartfelt thanks to Professor S. Chatterjee, my guru, for accepting our invitation and gracing this function as guest of honor of the inaugural ceremony and blessing us with his kind words. My thanks also goes to Colonel B. Venkat sir, who has been the inspiring force for this program. We have contacted a lot for any, let's say, for the speaker and all. We have contacted and he was always ready to respond. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I pay my sincere gratitude to Professor A.N. Tiwari, sir, the controller of examination, and Professor Brijesh Kumar, sir, the registrar of the university, for guiding us throughout this the program. I also thank to my fellow colleague, Dr. Shekhar Yadav, the coordinator of this program, who has taken really a lot of pain to organize this program. I cannot share, there's a lot of hurdles in organizing such kind of program, and we are going to organize really this kind of program. We have several faculty development programs we have organized together, but this is our first kind, so it is really a new experience for us. I would also like to mention the special thanks to Ms. Soumya Tripathi, who is anchoring for the program, Mr. Brijesh Kumar, the research scholar cum teaching fellow, for handling all the technical activities. Finally, my vote of thanks would not be completed if I didn't mention the efforts made by our research scholar, student volunteers, and other technical staff of the university for their continuous involvement in the program. Thank you all, and thank you all for being the part of the program. There are a lot of registration of this FDP has been well appreciated by, we can say, through the large number of registration, and is still going on. For this today, will continue up to this. We have got 175 registrations, and we can see in the lobby more than 100 people are connected. So a lot of enthusiasm there for this changing, adapting new technology in the education system, especially in the examination reform. So with these words, I would like to again thanks to all who have made directly or indirectly any support to this program. So audience, please get benefited from this program. There are a lot of eminent speakers in the education technology. So thank you all. Thank you very much for being the part of this. So Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now a small announcement about the program. Sessions will resume at the same virtual Microsoft Team meeting platform at the respective time mentioned in the schedule. Now, may I request everyone to please join in for the national anthem.
So if you are still facing the audio problems in the audio, so can you just put the slide on the screen and we can recite generally. Is it over now? It's over now?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We'll take a break for 5 minutes, sir, and then we'll start session 1, sir.
Okay.
I would like to welcome the speaker of the first session, Dr. G. Janardhan, sir. I think he has already joined with us. He's in the lobby. Sir, good morning, sir. Are you there in the lobby?
Good morning, sir.
Dr. G. So this is a welcome to you, sir, for the first session. So we'll just wait for the, sir, if you allow us for 5 minutes, and then we'll start the session, first session with you, sir. So participants, you can remain connected in the lobby. Please be connected with her and let us breathe for 5 minutes, and then we'll be back.
नहीं आता, जैसे इसमें वो ऑप्शन नहीं है। जैसे ऐप में आ रहा है कंप्यूटर साइन क्लिक करने के लिए, लेकिन वेब वाले में नहीं आ रहा।
उस दिन हुआ था, एक दिन पहले जब रिहर्सल किया था, वो फील करने किया था हमें, एक दिन पहले चल रहा था। और उस दिन क्या हुआ, मैं हेडफोन में लगे था, सब लोग एक साथ बैठे हुए थे, और हेडफोन जब खोलोगे तो हेडफोन में सुनाई देगा और किसी को नहीं सुनाई देगा। मुझे लगा अगर अनम्यूट करते ना, हो सकता है तब चल जाता। नहीं सर, जैसे इसमें सर ये क्या है ना, यहाँ पर टीम्स आ रहा है, इसको ब्राउजर खोलते हैं तब चलेगा। ओपन वर्ड पावरपॉइंट ब्राउजर में ही ओपन करा। नहीं तो सर जैसे टीम्स में भी खुल जाता है वो, उसके मतलब क्लाउड से लेके ओपन कर लेता है फाइल को, वो ऑप्शन। जैसे इसमें सर शेयर पे क्लिक करते हैं ना यहाँ पे, तो इसमें आता है ये इंक्लूड कंप्यूटर साउंड, तो जब इस पे टिक करते हैं तब वो मतलब शेयर होता है। हाँ, टीम्स पे चला रहा है, ऐप में मतलब आ रहा है, उसमें नहीं आ रहा था। रेसेस में सही हो गया था, इसमें गड़बड़ हो गया। थोड़ा सा आप लोग एक बार चेक करना चाहिए था पहले आके। बायोग्राफी रीड करेंगे 5 मिनट। काम खत्म।
इस तरह से सेशन 1 का जो लिंक है रिकॉर्डिंग जी वो कहाँ पर आएगा दिखेंगे? हाँ सर उसमें आपके चैट वाले में आएगा, इस पर क्लिक करें, इसमें जो 9 रिप्लाईज लिखा है इसी में आएगा। नहीं आ रहा रिकॉर्डिंग स्टॉप है, रिकॉर्डिंग स्टॉप कर दिया था ना
Dear participants, welcome you all in the first session of 1 week faculty development program on examination reforms. And this session will be taken by Dr. G. Janardana, NITTR Chennai. So before I hand over the dais to Sir, let me read a short biography of Sir. Dr. Janardana Ganga Tulsi is Associate Professor of Civil Engineering and Environmental Engineering and Head of the Department of Curriculum Development, Planning and Coordination at the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chennai. Dr. Janardana has over 18 years of research, teaching and consulting experience within the broad fields of civil, environmental engineering, engineering education. His research expertise include technology-enabled teaching, learning, assessment and evaluation, development of MOOCs, accreditation, academic quality framework and academic auditing, learning spaces, blended approach, active and experiential learning, sustainable development and education, environmental remediation, solid and hazardous waste management and landfill engineering, and also life cycle assessment and sustainable construction material. His research and training program is funded by the iTech DST World Bank, MHRD, EWD, and several prominent state government and universities. His research includes laboratory studies, field experiments, and computer modeling, ultimately leading to fundamental advances and practical solutions to real-world problems. Dr. Janardana has published around 45 research articles in the international and national journals and conferences. He has been granted patent by Government of India towards manufacturing artificial aggregation from waste. Dr. Janardana has coordinated more than 20 international training programs and trained around 400 international delegates from 68 different countries across the globe. To name few, Afghanistan, Algeria, Angola, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Belarus, Botswana, Colombia, and etc. He has coordinated more than 200 training programs and trained more than 15,000 participants. He has developed and offered 6 MOOCs with registration more than 30,000. He is serving as a reviewer of various journal and international conferences. Dr. Janardana has received fellowship and awards, UNESCO invitation to Asia Pacific Regional Seminar on MOOC for Higher Education, Institution of Engineers India, Young Engineers Award, American Society of Civil Engineer ASC, Alliance Section, Geotechnical Award, Swiss Federal Institute of Technology EPFL Fellowship, University of Alliance Doctoral Fellowship. So he is a member in American Society of Engineering Education, American Society of Civil Engineers, International Water Association, IWA, Indian Society of Technical Education, Indian Geotechnical Society, National Solid Waste Association of India, Institution of Engineers India. His doctoral research is from University of Alliance, USA, and bachelor's and master's degree from College of Engineering, India, Anna University, India. He extensively traveled within and abroad for technical lectures. For example, USA, Germany, Belarus, China, Hong Kong, Thailand. And I'll hand over the dash, and just reciting his short biography, I can see how what vast expertise sir has. So it will be very honored to have you, sir, for the session one. So now that's over to you, sir.
Good morning, and it's my pleasure to kickstart the AICT sponsored training program at Triple M University of Technology, Gorakhpur, on examination reforms. Why we need to focus on examination reforms? Is it going to play an important role? What way it is going to play an important role? Basically, if you observe, if the students are performing well, how they are performing? They are performing based on the assessment pattern what we wish. If the assessment pattern, if it's going to be multiple choice question, the students will learn accordingly. If the assessment pattern is going to be a written test, they are going to learn accordingly. So one way or other way, the assessment is going to redefine or define the learning pattern. That we have to accept it. Assessment is going to define the learning pattern. The learning pattern is also influenced by our teaching pattern. Some way or other way, we might teach, because since if now I am offering a new course on research methodology in IPR through MOOC in the month of June onwards, it is going to be floating through MOOC. So for that, when I am preparing a MOOC, I have my own passion of making a MOOCs. So what we did, we took some movie, Flash of Genius. There was a movie in Hollywood which really talks about how this movie is getting connected to the research methodology in IPR. So each chapter, one story, case study, accordingly the structure. So the teaching pattern defines the learning pattern, but the learning pattern depends upon the assessment pattern. So the learning is influenced by the two major corners. One is assessment, one is teaching. So assessment is the top pivotal point which is going to redefine the maximum of the learning. Even if my teaching pattern is different, but if the assessment pattern is different, the students will try to focus only on the assessment pattern. I might teach out of box classroom thinking, several things I can teach. But if it is not going to be in the assessment, only a few percentage of the students are going to learn from the learning sake. Rest of them, they will always wish to adopt what it has been asked in the examination. So in such situation, how to go about it? There always exists a nexus between the teaching, learning and assessment. Is doing things better or doing better things? What matters? What do you mean by doing things better or doing better things? It basically focuses on it is focused on the difference between the effectiveness and efficiency. How effective you are, how efficient you are. That is going to be the major focus. Efficiency and effectiveness, it is going to focus. So the efficiency and effectiveness is focused, and it's going to make effectiveness and efficiency, it is going to focus on the matters. Efficiency and effectiveness is going to focus on it matters. So so that it depends upon how effective and how efficient you are. How effective and how efficient you are, it is going to play an important role. How effective and efficient you are, it is going to play an important role. How effective and efficient you are, it's going to play an important role. Okay. So in this lecture, the content expressed are purely my technical perspective. It does not represent the organization to which I am affiliated. So when we talk in terms of assessment, we have to see what sort of system, teaching system we have. At present, we have outcome-based education. What do you mean by outcome-based education? Outcome-based education, if you understand the story of outcome-based education, then you will not forget outcome-based education, because the assessment pattern we all depends upon when we set the question paper. I've seen my colleague Dr. Dinesh Kumar is going to teach how to frame the question paper. In question paper framing, we see two dimensions. One is knowledge dimension, then is a cognitive dimension. In knowledge dimension, there are 4 different types of knowledge: factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. The conceptual knowledge, you will remember. The procedural knowledge, it will be evergreen, and only if you remember the concepts. If the procedural knowledge, if you are forgetting, then obviously you didn't understand the concepts. So to emphasize that, you have to remember how we have to focus, and what we have to focus. If you observe the outcome-based education, the fundamental definition, the learning is fixed. The learning is fixed, but the learning time varies. This is like drawing a line between this. There are different types of learners exist. There exists a diversity in the teaching learning process. Because generally learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is a product of the activity of the learners. Always there exists a difference. Diversity exists. Suppose if this pencil wants to reach this level line, it has to travel more time. But whereas this pencil has to travel only less time. But this pencil will take still more time when compared to the brown color pencil. But this pencil already surpassed the line. So the outcome-based education, the fundamental definition is the learning is fixed. The learning time varies. Learning is fixed. Learning time varies. How I need to accommodate the learning time? How I need to take care of the learning time? Because if you all observe, it all started with the launch of a satellite by Russia known as a Sputnik. Sputnik, when they launched, the US people, they got thinking what way they have to redefine their education system. Under the leadership of Professor Spady, they framed a committee to focus on the creation of an outcome-based education. So if you want to focus on outcome-based education, the fundamental definition you have to remember, the learning is fixed, the learning time varies. If the learning is fixed, if the learning time varies, how to bring everyone to the same level with the minimum time, it all depends upon the teaching. But if you want to bring everyone to the minimum level, our assessment pattern should focus on that minimum level, so that our learning is also focusing getting aligned to the assessment. Thus, there exists a nexus between the teaching, learning, and assessment. Teaching, learning, and assessment nexus exist. So the great teachers are made, not just born. Are you ready for the journey? Because they are organizing a wonderful training program. Because when Sir was requesting me, I was really eager to take more than 2-3 sessions. Because 3 days when training AICT was offering, I need to thank Professor Colonel Vengat. Because more than 4 workshops we conducted. Because 3 days I myself will be taking, I can take 3 days. That is because full day, because we offered a program on MOOC. How the assessment, the pattern need to be there. Because when the assessment pattern differs, we also focus on academic auditing, where we focus on the discrimination index and difficulty index. A question paper, how it is defining, how it is discriminating the learners and the the learners who needs improvement. So all those aspects we are going to focus on it. Are you qualified? This is the question. In outcome-based education, there is no question of are you qualified. In assessment, we will try to check who are all qualified. Are you qualified? But in outcome-based education, you have to remember there is no question of are you qualified. All are qualified. All are qualified. How to bring them all are qualified? Our teaching learning process need to get redefined. So outcome-based education, the fundamental definition provided by Spady is learning is fixed, learning time varies. That is the first definition. In outcome-based assessment, there is no concept of are you qualified. All are qualified. That is the question which you have to remember. So then how to go about it? So in 1960s, 70s, if the students are not performing well, the parents, teachers, everyone will be shouting at the students what you are doing. You are not focusing on your studies. You are not focusing on your education. All stories they will be telling. Okay, you are not focused. You are not sincere. You are not focused. All those concepts will come. But now, if the students are not performing well, nowadays the parents, students, they are all scolding the teacher. What the hell you are doing? I went to a college, very famous college in Bangalore, which we went for a training program, but not now, 2017 or 18, I remember, 17. So when we went, we did some training program and we asked, the management was telling, sir, you give the report about the teachers so that we'll make the increment according to your report. I said, no such thing. The training is for some different domain. Their increment cannot be focused on only one part of assessment. So nowadays, the teachers are being graded as a good teachers if they produce the students with all of a good mark. So then what the teachers is doing? Let me give the more mark. What is the headache for me? For me, let it be no headache. Let me give a good mark whether they deserve or deserve. It should not affect my career. That is the focus which they are focusing. So the students nowadays, they are focusing, if the students are not performing well, the teachers are being held as a responsible. But we have to see what it is. A national education policy categorically defines 360-degree of evaluation for the students. There is a subtle difference between the term assessment and evaluation. I am using the term assessment always, not evaluation. Assessment, to sit side by, from the Latin word. Our Upanishad also means to sit side by. What do you sit side by? Sit side by and try to motivate them, try to find their mistakes, try to connect them and try to promote them. That is the concepts which you have to remember. But in the name of a fair selection, we think everybody have to take the same exam and please climb the tree. That is the thing. But individual difference need to get acknowledged. Individual difference need to get acknowledged. That is the main focus which we have to focus. In the educational reforms of AICT, they are categorically defined. When we set a question paper, we have to define the competency which we have to do. For example, recently I was going for an academic audit for one of the university, very famous university in South India. Because we travel for several institutes to do the academic auditing. Academic auditing we do, and because once they become a university, once they become autonomous colleges, academic auditing becomes a part of the work. So we go for regularly to academic auditing. Even for Pune, Nasik, few universities, we go for academic audit regularly. So when I looked into the question paper, it is a very famous state university, very famous state university. They are asked a question, what is Darcy's law? Is it a right way of questioning? I'm not questioning the teacher, because the teacher is making a mistake because she has not been exposed to the way how she has to frame the question paper. If the students write, law written by Darcy is Darcy's law, you cannot deny the mark to it, because you ask what is Darcy's law. The law written by Darcy is Darcy's law, correct? The law which has been questioned in the question paper is a Darcy's law. You have to give the mark. The question has to be defined Darcy's law. And also I have seen that some people, they very casually they use the term distinguish and differentiate. Distinguish and differentiate are not one and the same. When you call distinguish, if I want to ask the distinguish between metals and non-metals, I have to tell the unique features of the metal, which has it's unique only in metal, which is not present in non-metals or any wood or anything. Whereas differentiate is different, and differentiate is bringing out the difference. It is this much, but this can do this much. Like that we are being. Both has this thing. In differentiate, both has the capacity. But it has this one, but this has much more beyond that. If it is having 20 grams, if it is having 50 grams, that is a differentiating. But uniqueness, he is only having, he doesn't possess that thing. So when you frame the question, so we have to remember what all the action verb which we have to use. My colleagues, I have seen the timetable was fantastically structured by the coordinator. I have seen big stalwarts like Professor P.K. Tulsi Madam is delivering a lecture. And from Nether, Chennai, I am seeing Professor Shanmuganidhi, who prepared the course on student assessment for both for NINTT and SWAYAM. Dr. Mallika, Dr. Dinesh Kumar also one of the coordinator for student assessment, and Dr. K.S. Giridharan, and other members, some members like Sahu and Professor Shiv Kumar, they are also offering. So the importance of the questions, importance of the word, what we are going to use it in the question paper matters a lot. So in the name of a fair body selection, fair selection, we should not have a same structure, individualized instruction. And when we are testing something, it has to replicate the natural condition. Suppose if I am asking the students to do something which may not be same as what we call it in the the field practice, then that is not going to make a replica. So when we ask the students to do something, it has to ask them to reproduce what it has been asked in the field condition. That is very, very important. That is very, very important. That is the need of the hour which we have to take it. So if you see the Gronland, who is supposed to be, he has written one of the very good book for measurement and assessment in teaching, and he is known as the father of modern assessment, school assessment, teaching, educational assessment. He told categorically the students go to school or college to learn, not to take tests. In addition, tests cannot be used to indicate the student's absolute level of learning. All tests can do is rank students in order of achievement. The relative ranking is influenced by guessing, by bluffing, and the subjective opinion of the teachers doing the scoring.
Hello, people
The
from the
teaching
future.
learning process
Welcome
would
to
benefit
Normalized Nerd.
if we did
This
away
is
with
the
the
third
test
video
and
of my
depend on the
microscale
students'
series, and it's gonna be a very
self-assessment.
important one.
That is the
Today, I will explain the
definition of
higher
so
order
we have to go away with the self-assessment. That is what the National Education Policy 2020 talks in terms of PARAG. 360-degree. The student need to get evaluated by the self, by himself, by the teacher, by the peers, and by the parents. Because if you observe current generation kids, they lack in self-assessment. Because of the self-assessment, lack in the self-assessment only, it leads to the extreme condition of suicidal thoughts comes to the students. Because whenever I go for regularly when I go, because recently last week also when I went as an examiner to Anna University for the MTech examination, I was asking casually to the students, how much mark you expect for PG students? I'm not talking about UG, PG. UG is also same manner. The students will simply tell, sir, I expect 95, 100, above 90. The students are not in the position to accept, yes, I am eligible only for 80 mark because my contribution was not good. They are not in the position to accept, yes, I am eligible for only for 70 marks. They are not having a guts to make it. Our assessment pattern should promote that attitude. That was the main crux in the national education policy. National education policy divided into 4 major aspects: self-evaluation, the evaluation by the teachers, evaluation by the peers, evaluation by the parents. The self-evaluation becomes important. The students need to know how to self-evaluate themselves or self-assess themselves. That is very, very important. That is the need of the hour, which we have to emphasize. And moreover, when the students are not performing, when they go to the people or how you did the examination, if they failed, they tell the examination failed. The reason is they didn't, the question paper was tough. The teacher was correcting in the evaluation. The question paper contained out of syllabus. All nonsense and nuisance they will tell. But the reality is only one thing. They didn't study for the examination. That is the reality. They wouldn't properly prepare for the examination. But other than that, they will tell all stories. That is the aspect which they have. So if I ask, so you have a chat box, I think. When I shown this picture, what comes to your mind, sir? When I've shown this picture to you, and next for 2 minutes, what comes to your picture? Can you put it in the chat box, sir? Can you put it in the chat box? I hope chat box is active. I don't know. Chat box is not active. Okay. Available only to the team members. Okay, no problem. What I will do, how many participants are there? 90 participants are there. Okay. Okay, let me go to a Padlet wall. I will design a Padlet wall. I will put a Padlet wall. Okay, Padlet wall. Let me have a Padlet wall. Upashika Padlet. Let me Padlet wall. Okay, let me have a wall. Create a wall, and let me create a wall to your university alone. Your university alone, let me make a wall. Let me make a wall, sorry. What it is? This is the course exclusive for examination reforms. Examination reforms. ER. Okay. Voice of the participants. Made to explode. Okay. So this Padlet wall is there. I request the participants to go to the Padlet wall. How to go to the Padlet wall is like this. You can just type it in your browser because I cannot put it in the chat box. Chat box is not active only for the members. I have not. Maybe I can put it to the share. The participants can go to this Padlet wall. They can type in the browser padlet.com jana355/er. If they go, they can type. As soon as I see this picture, my mind thinks she is a beggar. Or cold climate. Cold climate. Whatever comes. Because I am putting, so you are knowing my name. If you put, no one knows who has posted. Because it is anonymous post, don't need to worry. I am not going to share your names or anything. It's anonymous post, you can do it. So I request the participants to go to this wing, padlet.com/jana355/er. If you go to this Padlet wall, what comes to your mind as soon as you see this picture? What comes to your mind as soon as you see this picture? Please, sir, please. What comes to your mind as soon as you see this picture? What comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? What comes to your mind as soon as you've seen this picture? What comes to your mind as soon as you see this picture? What comes to your mind as soon as you see this picture, please? What comes to your mind when you see this picture? So I just want to know the participants' view in it so that I can yes, only one person has written, other than that no one has written. Okay, some people are typing it. Okay, some people are typing it. Let me see what they are typing it. So cold climate, I have told cold climate. What comes to your mind when you have seen this picture? Someone is typing it. Please type, sir. Please type.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma.
Sir, I'm seeing your knitter wall, not the triple MUT's exam reform wall.
Which wall?
I'm seeing your knitter wall and ITTR wall.
No, I've changed. I'm projecting it in the PPT. I'm projecting to the PPT through web viewer. That is the reason.
Okay, then.
I've just called the same wall in the PPT. Ma. Okay, this is the wall you're telling. No, I called this wall into the PPT. That's it. You just double click it. What comes to your mind when you see this picture? What comes to your mind when you have seen this picture? What comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you have seen this picture? Immediately, what comes to your mind?
Somebody is thinking.
Yes, fantastic. Somebody is thinking. Madam has told somebody is thinking. So she has told somebody is thinking. Okay, thinking. She's told somebody is thinking. Okay, I am publishing it. No problem. She told thinking. No problem. You can type it. You can just double click in the wall and you can tell. Please, sir. Come on, sir. At least 5 to 10 people. If you tell, it will be good. Okay, somebody sitting helpless. Okay, someone has told somebody sitting helpless. I don't know who has written, but still I can see. This is the way the collaborative tools works. Collaborative tools is one of the good collaborative. Padlet is a good collaborative tool. Even if you put it in the chat box, I know the name of the people, so they might feel shy. Oh, what this guy will tell. Okay, now I don't feel shy. You don't need to feel shy. I'm not promoting anonymous culture, but still I'm promoting a culture which the students will be responsive to what they're come to tell. Because learning is not the product of teaching, learning is the product of fact. You see, someone has typed somebody setting helpless. I didn't type. I don't know, among your 90 participants, someone has typed. I don't know the name, but still I got the input. Thank you to that participant, because I know only among your team, 90 people are only having the link they are providing. After that, I will change the link. I will change the link also. The voice of the participants. So I don't know why no one is typing, because are they feeling shy? Are they feeling because somebody sitting helpless? I put it, okay, someone told concrete wall. Okay, they told a concrete wall. Okay, this is not the concrete wall. I'm not asking about this picture. I'm asking about this picture. What comes to your mind when you've seen this picture which I'm showing? This picture. What comes to your mind when someone told someone helpless, some need help, someone is thinking? So the people have written somebody sitting helpless, cold climate thinking. So Sarah has written concrete wall. Maybe after seeing this wall, he might have thought it's a concrete wall. No problem. Maybe my question, this way that sometimes the question also misinterprets. The students misinterpret the question and they provide the answers based on from their own perspective. So someone feeling hopeless and depressed. See, someone has told someone is feeling hopeless and depressed. They feel, okay, I'm hopeless, I'm depressed, what to do? Because I of that condition. Okay, good. Someone is feeling I'm hopeless and depressed. Okay, then maybe I'll wait for one more. Some are reading while covered face. Okay. Reading while covering the face. Okay. By covering the face, he or she is reading. Okay. Good. Very good. A child waiting for his parents. Fantastic. Maybe child waiting for his parents. Okay. Child waiting for his parents. Fantastic. Writing something. Okay, writing something. Okay. With this, the people have stopped writing because no one is writing. Okay, I got some input from the wall. It is good. You can see when I've shown this picture, immediately someone told someone is writing, thinking, writing, child waiting. So you have never seen this picture before. But when I've shown this picture, immediately you're trying to connect what you have already experienced in the life. Because when I taste some food item in the North India, I immediately connect to the food which I've already experienced in my life. I never take the new food as a new food. I never take the new thing as a new thing. I always try to connect the new thing to the already thing which I've experienced in my life. Similarly, in assessment, the students are, if they are interpreting something, means it would have had an influence of your teaching in the classroom, or it would have had based on the learning of the classroom. So we have seen this picture. Someone told homeless, subway, begging, help, freezing, poverty, lost. All the ideas came because you had the thought process of correcting. So now you have to remember, now educational institutions does not mean the students are learning. You have to accept it. Educational institution does not mean the students will learn, and learning does not mean the students will have the skill for the labor market. Learning does not mean the students will have a skills for the labor market. And having skills does not mean the students will have a job. Having skill does not mean the students will have a job. So now educational institution does not mean students will learn, and learning does not mean the students will have the skills for the labor market, and having the skills does not mean the students will have a job. So it is a more complex route, how to go about it. But we have to remember, are we doing old things in a new way or new things in a new way? Because now the concept which literature, now I am heading a curriculum development division. I am working on a concept known as a decolonization of curriculum. Always we have been fine-tuned to the Western culture. I'm not finding, because I was there for 5 years in US, all my degree, everything I did from there. But the thought process of skewing our thing to their need, it is really difficult. If you take OBE or if you take CDIO, we try to implement from US. But are there our school education is similar to what their school education? Not at all. Then how we try to implement it is a problem. So one thing you have to remember, but this is the most important time to be in education. It is the most important time to take care about education. The most important time to create impact in education. So in such situation, we have to remember that teaching, learning, and assessment as a grade, nexus, and role. So educational institutions are knowledge of, if you want, the score and grade card is going to give their job. Their job, getting the job, it depends upon the score or job, grade. But getting a grade is depends upon the formative assessment or summative assessment. But in the national education policy, categorically it is told, don't focus too much on summative, try to focus more on formative assessment. Why we have to focus on formative assessment? What is the difference between formative assessment and summative assessment? It all depends. If your formative assessment is properly structured, the learning is assessed periodically. If the learning is assessed periodically, our teaching could be restructured accordingly. That is advantages there. So the score and grade card is going to define their job. The score and grade card is going to depend upon the formative assessment and summative assessment. Now, NEP 2020 categorically focus more emphasis on the formative assessment rather than the summative assessment. So, how it focus? Because from nowadays, the teaching learning process have changed a lot from the classroom scenario, from a library, from the practical workshops. The learning have changed different because learning doesn't take place in classroom, library, and workshop alone. Learning takes place anytime, anywhere. That is advantage. Now, the technological advancement has redefined the pattern which the learning is taking place. So let us explore together how the future assessment is there. But even if you explore as a teacher, AACT, but students are completely blindfolded in learning. If it is come for the exam, they will study. Otherwise, they will not study. Very simple. If it is going to be in the exam, they will study. Otherwise, they will not study. So the present scenario, the students are completely blindfolded in learning. So let's unlock where is the key. Key is our teaching learning process. It is impossible to redesign students to fit into a system, but we can redesign a system for the students. To redesign a system for the students is the crux of the today's talk, and that too this week, 1 week workshop, what the college is doing is tremendously good on examination reforms. They want to redesign a system for the students because it is impossible to redesign a students to fit into our system. So what we are going to do? So there are plenty of information is available. The information need to be framed into a knowledge. If it is want to framed into a knowledge, our assessment pattern to be perfect. If there is a flaw in the assessment pattern or if the flaw in the teaching pattern, then the connection of knowledge is going to create a trouble. That is the reason student doesn't know how this is connected to that, that is connected to this. This problem came because our teaching learning assessment problem has not been connected appropriately. So what are the outcomes? Because if you all observe, the teaching learning process assessment depends upon the learning outcomes, because ultimately we are worried about making assessment evaluation of course outcome. So that is the way the national assessment examination reform talks about measuring the competency indicators and knowledge indicators. The two things we are measuring: the learning outcomes and program outcomes, program education objectives, and vision and mission of the institution. Vision and mission of the institution will evolve after some time. Program education objectives will evolve on the long term, whereas POs and LEOs or COs we measure along the short term. So, and upon the subject completion, we will be assessing the COs. Upon the graduation, we evaluate the POs. After few years from graduation, we evaluate POs, and we'll just check whether the student has achieved this thing or not. So, ultimately, you have to remember the assessment pattern. It's going to be redefined based on teaching and learning. The assessment pattern could be redefined based on, is it a formative assessment or summative assessment? Assessment pattern as per NEP, there are 4 360-degree: assessment by the self, assessment by the teacher, assessment by the peers, assessment by the parents. So aligning the learning outcomes to the assessment, being clearly tells, define the intended learning outcome. If you want to teach something, clearly tell what you are going to assess. That is very, very important, because simply asking them to going to do them, it is not going to serve the purpose. So we have to be very clear what exactly we have to do and what exactly we do. So define the learning outcomes, define the internal learning outcomes. Choose the teaching learning activity that likely to lead to the attaining the learning outcomes, and assessing the student learning outcome, how it will match with what was intended, and finally arriving at the final point. Because if we want to teach them some skill, there need to be some practical sessions need to be there. Assessment of a skill should not be based on theoretical knowledge alone. Assessment of the skill should be based on the... Yes, sir.
लिस्ट हमारे पास नहीं है इस तरह बिजनेस करना
Yes, sir. I don't know, someone is telling. Okay. Okay, I have to finish by 12 o'clock. Okay, I will finish it. No problem. Okay. So we have to remember the focus of teaching learning need to be not on the content base. It has to be focused on the context base. That is the major crux which is there. When assessment need to be structured, it should not be based on the content based knowledge. It has to be based on the context based knowledge. It has to be based on the context based knowledge. It has to be based on the context based. It will try to promote the knowledge. It will try to promote the knowledge. So learning factual information, the assessment pattern defines. Learning visual identification, the assessment pattern is different. And learning principle, concepts, rules, the assessment pattern is different. Learning procedures, performing skilled perpetual motor act, and developing desirable attitude, opinions, and motivation. So depending upon the content, the assessment need to get structured. If I'm going to learn the procedures, my assessment need to measure the skill what I have acquired. If I want to measure the attitude or affective, it has to be structured accordingly. So depending on the content, the assessment need to be structured. So assessment evaluation not only the same as I told in Latin word, sit side by. There are three types of assessment and evaluation. Assessment depends upon the measurement, purpose of process of measuring something with the purpose of assigning a numerical value, that is assessment. Evaluation, the process of determining the worth of something in relation to established benchmark, that is evaluation. They are not one and the same. To put it a simple manner, assessment, it's measurement, quantitative measurement and qualitative measurement. It is either quantitative or qualitative. It could be there. For qualitative, for non-measurement tools, we use rubrics. You remember we use rubrics. How to develop rubrics? My colleagues will tell. National Science Foundation of United States of America developed a wonderful software, rubystar.4teachers.org. Very good software. You can do it web browser software. You can create your own rubrics, customize the rubrics. You can give the scales. You can define the indicators. The descriptors are automatically filled in. So that is advantage for qualitative assessment. So assessment is nothing but a quantitative measurement plus qualitative measurement plus value judgment. Plus value judgment. When you add a value judgment, assessment becomes evaluation. Assessment becomes an evaluation. So what we are going to do, the trick is students learn what they learn. It will be assessed, not what is in curriculum. The students are not learning what it is in curriculum. They are learning what it will be assessed. So as I told you, assessment plays an important role. So there are three types of assessment are there: formative, summative, and diagnostic. As I told you, focus on formative has to be more when compared to summative and diagnostic. What do you mean by it? So I will try to put it in a simple manner. So suppose if I come to your place, Gorakhpur, if I am coming. So first one is the preparatory assessment or diagnostic assessment. It means assessment to learning. Assessment to learning. Second is a formative assessment for learning. And third is summative assessment of learning. So it is nothing but assessment to learning, assessment for learning, assessment of learning, assessment to learning, assessment for learning, assessment of learning. The three things are there. I can put it in a simple example. Okay, let it be. Now, if I want to make afternoon lunch, if I want to go and make afternoon lunch after the classroom, now already it is 12 o'clock, I have to go and prepare lunch. Let me think I want to make a lunch of curd rice. Curd rice. Let me take, I want to make a curd rice. So if I want to make a curd rice, I have to curd rice and potato fry. This was the lunch which I want to prepare today. So if I want to prepare a curd rice and potato fry, if I know what it is available in kitchen before, I can buy while going to the home, or as soon as I go home, I check my kitchen. Oh, potato is not there. Okay, let me go and purchase the potato, what all the items, what I need, curd, everything, whatever I need, I go and purchase and come and keep it ready before starting cooking the process. So that is known as a preparatory assessment or diagnostic assessment. What it is there to prepare the outcomes, to achieve the outcomes. If some requirement is missing to achieve the outcome, that is achieved through some bridge courses. Some courses where we'll train and where you give the, suppose before the semester starting, if this is a subject which they are going to learn is a prerequisite subject, so the knowledge is important. So if they possess, if how the knowledge is defined accordingly, I can focus on this subject. So that is a preparatory assessment or assessment to learning. Once I purchase potato, mirchi, everything I purchase, I started cooking it. During the cooking, I taste in between how the potatoes taste is there, how the curd rice taste is good, whether salt is good, chili powder is good. That is during the process you are evaluating. That is a formative assessment. Assessment for learning. If the formative assessment is perfect, if the formative assessment is properly structured, then my final product, no need to worry about the final product. If the formative assessment is flawed, then I can see if my potato is not cooked properly, then I can learn, oh, I should have made the potato to boil for some more time, baked some more time. So I can also redefine my teaching skills, or also I can redesign my cooking skills. That is what the formative assessment. Formative assessment is assessment for learning. Finally, once I cooked the food and one of the guests is coming, suddenly he wants to taste. When he tasted the curd rice and potato fry, he said, awesome, sir, awesome. Then that is the summative assessment. The product assessment. The product assessment depends upon the process assessment. The speediness of the process or the efficiency of the process depends upon the diagnostic assessment. If the diagnostic assessment really will make me to structure my teaching, which in turn going to focus on formative assessment, the formative assessment is going to focus on the summative assessment. So this is what the thing. To take look into the predictable difficulty, to diagnose the strength and the weakness. Formative assessment to provide a feedback to the students, to improve the learning, to provide a profile of what student has learned, to help students to develop the skills of self-assessment, to motivate students possibly through goal setting. So summative assessment will tell whether the students is passed or failed, grade and rank, to select for future course, to predict the success in the future courses, to motivate the students. This is what the summative assessment focus. So from employment point of view, to license to proceed, to license to practice, to select for future employment, to predict success in the future employment. So these are the things for summative assessment. So if you see the range of assessment method, it's in closed books or essay types, short questions, answer and combination, open book exam, multiple choice question, coursework, learning journals, portfolio, presentation, and peer and self-assessment. The assessment tasks do not match the stated learning outcomes. The marking criteria do not match the task of outcomes. The criteria are not known to the students. The students do not understand the criteria. These are the some problem which exists with them. If they don't know the criteria, they're not going to do the perform. So sometimes they might be focusing on some unit which is not going to come for the examination. So they might waste. So they don't know the criteria, or they didn't understand the criteria. Making a criteria which mismatches, that is also very, very important. So overuse of one mode of assessment, such as the written examination, essays and MCQs, or assessment overload for students and staff, insufficiency of time for the students to do the assessment, and too many assessment with the same deadline. All those things are causing problem for the assessment. So insufficient time, absence of well-defined criteria and specified criteria, it is going to define the problem. And lack of programmatic assessment and variation is the assessment, and with variation modules and assessors different, because if the two different assessors are there, it is going to create a problem. So to define effective assessment, first you have to what are the outcomes to be assessed, what capabilities or skill which you expect in the final day question paper you will be focusing. Is it assessment method chosen consonant and outcomes and skills, or it's relatively easy? So what are the alternate assessment pattern defines? Are the marking scheme or criteria has been provided appropriately? Is it matching the skills and outcomes? So to gather the feedback, you have to remember the feedback should relate to the assessment criteria. Is it the feedback should be linked to the students' work. The feedback should be on the timely feedback. If the feedback what you are giving, the students should understand the feedback, and it should not provide overwhelming feedback also, you should not provide. So when it clearly given, the emphasis should be on NDP 2020. If you remember, it regularly focus on the regular formative and competency-based assessment, promoting learning and development of students, focus on assessment for learning and test higher order skill. That is critical thinking, conceptual clarity, and as I told you, there are 4 types of knowledges are there: factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. If you want to remember the procedural knowledge, the concepts need to be clear, the facts need to be clear. And metacognitive knowledge, the knowledge about knowledge, is the highest level of the assessment. So if you want to promote analytical, critical thinking and conceptual clarity, the focus should be on conceptual and procedural, which in turn should lead to the metacognitive knowledge. And finally, the student should be continuously learning to optimize the learning process. As I told you, 360-degree evaluation, assessment by teacher, self-assessment, peer assessment, assessment by parents. So if all these 4 things are taken into consideration, the students will learn appropriately. So preparatory assessment or diagnostic assessment is assessment made prior to instruction, assessment made during the instruction, assessment made on the completion of instruction, comprehensive assessment of having all the components. What is the future ahead? It is impossible to predict the future with great accuracy because we never thought the pandemic will strike. When the pandemic strike, our teaching pattern have changed, our learning pattern have changed, our assessment pattern also changed. So it is impossible to predict. But what it's controllable with us is our teaching learning process. So as a teacher, when he's making a teaching learning process perfect, it is not his walking path is comfortable, it is student walking path is comfortable, so that his assessment path is also comfortable. Its assessment path is also comfortable. That is the way in which we can recode it. And the way in which students live with technology, the assessment should entertain the technology to it. They tap the energy which bring the students to the class. So obviously your assessment should focus on, formative assessment should focus on activity-based learning and problem-based learning. That is important. What is the next step for you? Think big. If you want to think big, when you don't have a question whether we do use ICT, how well is we do it. Without collaboration, there is no creation. When you do any assessment, it is not what you are going to do. It is going to make the students to do it and students to do it. Because if you see any students, they always will be happy to exhibit the skill set. If you want the students to exhibit the skill set, we have to have a clear thought of about the students' idea. So the first thing is you have to have the awareness. Next 5 days, you will be provided with awareness of how to frame the question paper, what are the odds, higher order thinking skills, what do you mean by Bloom's taxonomy, why we have to use Bloom's taxonomy, how we have to fix the outcomes, everything you will be taught awareness. Awareness should lead to the consideration. Consideration should lead to the adoption. Adoption should lead to the innovation. If you make the innovation, if you want to make the students to make the innovation, you have to have the awareness concept of awareness about the question paper setting. You have to consider and you have to adopt your teaching learning according to it. I hope this workshop will improve your efficiency, enrichment, and enlightenment. I hope the outcome is achieved. The students basically learn by videos, reading materials, active participation, assessment, and quiz. But you have to remember, getting information from the internet is taking a water from the fire hydrant. It doesn't matter how many resources you have if you don't know how to use them. So I don't know whether I provided the information or misinformation, but I cannot try it once again. It is already 12 o'clock. I don't know whether I loaded you with several stuff, but I'm pretty sure in this lecture, before coming, you better know what exactly the teaching, learning, and assessment means, what is meant by outcome-based education, what is the difference between diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment, what exactly the assessment is different. Assessment is quantitative measurement plus qualitative measurement. Evaluation is nothing but assessment plus value judgment. This lecture could have given you a spark. This spark will kindle your mind for the next 5 days. That confidence I have. And with this, I'm pretty sure whether we can win the race, but we are slow, but we are steady. Why we always want to go to Cornell University or different universities abroad is the way in which the student learning pattern is defined is ultimately different. And the students are also very much excited to learn from such a system where they have a more clarity of thought and clarity of action. If the clarity of thought and clarity of the action is there, then everything is going to be in order and perfect. So if you have any doubts, further comment, unanswered question, unresolved issues, you can ask me. Thank you very much. We can always get connected. These are my contact details. And thank you very much, because due to the time shortage, I was rushing up few slides because the 12 o'clock, the next speaker has to take up the session. I don't want to do it. So now, based on your comfort, I can you can ask any questions if you have. I will be always happy to answer it, because tomorrow, since I am out session, I was not in the position to cover. Otherwise, I will cover a few sessions, which is really I was happy to cover a few sessions. But tomorrow I'm not there. Monday, Tuesday, we are there. We'll try to see. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask me, sir.
Hello. Yes, sir. You are saying something, sir?
No, I told if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Okay. So participants, please, if you have any queries, please ask to speaker. Participant, please.
Good afternoon, sir. And it's very nice discussion from your side. Sir, in present scenario, when we are conducting exams, so it comes under assessment or evaluation. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. What?
In present scenario, before implementation of National Education Policy, we are conducting exams. So it comes under assessment or evaluation?
It comes under evaluation, because we are trying to make it into some standard defined benchmark. If he gets 80, this is a grade. If he gets 90, this is a grade. So assessment and evaluation at present are used highly interchangeably. We are using it. As I told you, there is only a subtle difference is there, but we are not having a clear demarcated line. We are not having. We are interchangeably using. But assessment is, it is only for the improvement. We are not trying to give him your 80 mark. If I'm giving, that is assessment. Okay. But if I assessment, if I'm trying to compare with some standard benchmark, then it becomes the evaluation mark.
Okay. So it means the distribution of assignments and then correcting their mistakes, and we told them that how you can improve your way of presentation as well as your way of learning. That comes under the category of assessment.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We all certainly got benefited from breadth of knowledge and depth of your expertise. Thanks a lot.
Participant, any more queries, sir? Participant side, from participant side. Okay, sir. There is no query, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation, sir, and giving a wonderful talk, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So we'll take a break of 5 minutes, and after that, we'll have session 2 of Professor S. Chatterjee, sir. So we'll start at 12:15. The next session will start at 12:15.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are there?
I am very much here.
Okay, sir. So I request Soumya ma'am to read a brief biography of sir, and I welcome once again all the participants in session 2. And I also welcome sir for joining with us. So Soumya ma'am, please read a brief biography.
Thank you, sir. So let's have a brief intro about Professor S. Chatterjee, sir. So he has been awarded PhD degree in electrical engineering from Punjab University, Chandigarh. He has obtained BE in electrical engineering from MACT, now known as MANIT Bhopal. Professor Chatterjee has obtained ME in electrical engineering from MNNIT Allahabad. He is member of IEEE USA, life member ISTE India, fellow IE India, and also life member NITT-TR Alumni Association. He is superannuated from NITT-TR Chandigarh as professor and head electrical engineering department after serving for a long period of 30 years and 4 months. Prior to that, he served IERT Allahabad as head of electrical engineering department for a period of 9 years and Indian Telephone Industries in the capacity of AEE for a period of 2 years. He remained adjunct professor for 5 years in Manipal University. Professor Chatterjee is a regular reviewer for many journals and member BOS for many universities. The key positions held by Professor Chatterjee for after retirement are as follows. Pro Vice Chancellor at Desh Bhagat University, Mandi, Govindgarh, Punjab. Director, United College of Engineering, Greater Noida, UP. Group Director, Guru Nanak Dev Trust of Technical Institution, Hoshiarpur, Punjab. Guest faculty in Punjab University, Chandigarh. Presently appointed as Margdarshak by AICTE under Margdarshan Scheme. Selected as resource person by Energy Efficient Services India Limited, that is EESIL, Government of India body for training purposes. Adjunct Professor in Electrical Engineering Department, Govind Vallabh Pant Institute of Engineering and Technology, Pauri, Garhwal, Uttarakhand. Professor Chatterjee has a total experience of about 45 years, 43 years in academics and 2 years in industry. He has supervised 16 PhD theses and 115 ME theses. He has written 2 textbooks in electrical engineering and has more than 225 publications in various international and national journals to his credit. He has won the Best Paper Award in IE India Journal. Professor Chatterjee has also designed and developed several instructional materials in the form of readers, lab manuals, experimental kits, and video films. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for having said so many good words about me. I do not know whether I deserve them or not. But at the offset, I would like to give my thanks to the organizers of this 5-day workshop, a very meaningful and very important workshop on a topic which is always there as a throat cancer. You know, many people, I would say that especially the teachers, they do not know how to assess. They do not know how to frame a question paper. And at the same time, the students do not know how are they being evaluated correctly or not. So my lecture, I was just listening to the prior lecture, the earlier one, Professor, what was his name? What was his name? Professor from South India must be. He was giving a very good presentation on assessment, especially the assessment. Professor Janardhan, yeah. So I was listening in patches of his lecture, and he made a very good presentation. But I was given an impression that I have to talk more on implementation of NEP 2020. It will have focus on R&D, innovation, entrepreneurship, and examination reforms. So examination reforms definitely is the topic of this 5-day workshop, which I think that many eminent speakers are there. But I would definitely try to take the other part, that is implementation of NEP 2020 with a focus on R&D, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And of course, little bit of examination reforms also. But my entire talk will be based on the AICT guidelines. Next, please. Next. Next. Yeah. The contents are what is education? Earlier one. इसके पहले वाला दिखाइए. What is education? Philosophy of NEP 2020, principles of NEP 2020, vision of NEP 2020, types of education in India, holistic and multidisciplinary education. Next, please. Next. Motivation of teachers and students, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, teachers and adult education, role of NEP 2020 in research and innovation, strategies for developing R&D, entrepreneurship development, and of course, examination reforms. What the AICT guidelines are there. Now, if you talk of what is education, all known to you, that it is the extraction of full human potential for good cause. If the education does not impart you anything good to become a good human being, I don't think that's education. So it is equitable and just society, promoting national development, providing universal access to quality education, and to key India's continued leadership on the global stage in terms of economic growth, social justice, and equity, scientific advancements, the national integration, and cultural preservation. Next, please. Next, please. So new education policy 2020 has come as a mark, So NEP 2020 is the first education policy in the 21st century and what aims to address the several growing development imperatives of our nation. It proposes revision and revamping for all aspects of education structure for providing governance and regulation to create new system that align with the aspirational goals on the 21st century. Particular emphasis on the development of creative potential of each individual. This is very, very important. As Professor Janardhan was also saying, that it differs from the individual to individual. You do not know what kind of potential a particular individual have. So the education policy is to be that every individual has to be checked and accordingly the potential is to be used. Next, please. Next. I think आप ना इसको थोड़ा quickly करेंगे क्योंकि there are so many slides. So cognitive and foundational capabilities, then higher order cognitive capabilities and critical thinking of problem solving, social, ethical, and emotional capacities of depositions, and pursuit knowledge, which is Gyan, wisdom, which is Pragya, and truth, which is Satya. So this is what is very, very important. Gyan, Pragya, and Satya. World-class institutions like Takshila, Nalanda, Virkamshila, Vallavi, etc. and world-class scholars like Charak, Sushruta, Chanakya, Maitreyi, Aryabhat, Patanjali, Garg, Gargi, and Nagarjuna, etc. They all hail from India. So you can say that these are very high treasure, a very, very big treasure of India, that education was there, but that education has lost its glory. So NEP 2020 has tried to put them back on the glory itself. Next, please. Next. So teacher must be at the center of the fundamental reforms. It should be teachers-centered education, not the student-centered education. Teacher, of course, will be at the center, but the learning will have to take place in such a manner that it should be a bidirectional given story. But otherwise, if it is a unidirectional story, then it will not help. So NEP 2020 has provision to help establish the teachers at all levels as the most respected and essential members of our society. It provides all students, irrespective of their place, residence, socio-economic status, and quality education system, because the socio-economic background is very, very important. Many people, maybe from not very highly rich society or from a advanced society, but they may have the content, they may have the things to learn. So there should not be any demarcation in it. That is this 2020 has taken into consideration. Education is greater level is the best tool for achieving economic and social ability, inclusion and quality. And quality is the journey that it is not a destination. It is always a journey. That is a continuous journey. You cannot say it is the destination. Next, please. Next, please. Ministry of Human Resource, it is now known as the Ministry of Education. So earlier we have for schools 10 plus 2 to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. This is the change it has taken place, and currently it is 10.2 structure, which is policy converted schooling from class 1 to 10, that is age group of 6 to 16, and then class 11 to 12, age group of 16 to 18. This gives you 5 years of fundamental education, 3 of preparatory, and 3 of middle, and 4 years of secondary education schooling. This is what is the new this policy has. There's multi-stream. Then flexibility is there, subject to across their streams, all subjects to be offered at 2 levels of proficiency. Then diluted board. The board became very diluted. This is the exam reforms. Actually, this is the important part of it. The board had taken only kind of submitted, it was formative type of examination, as Professor Janardhan was pointing it out time and time, and it is not the summative type of evaluation. Then the multilingual. This is very important. The 3-language policy was to continue, will continue. Preference for local languages, which is regional language, you can say, up to at least class 8. Then bagless days. This is also an important factor. The school students to have 10 bagless days in a year. This is a marked decision taken by this policy, during which they are exposed to vocational and of their own choice and information. For colleges, it is SAT-like colleges. First, National Testing Agency to conduct the common college entrance exam twice a year. Twice a year they should be given an opportunity, and that depending on this entrance exam, the people should be taken into the college level. 4-year bachelor course, 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's program to be preferred. Midterm dropouts to be given credit with option to complete degree after. This is multi-point entry and multi-point exit system. A person who has taken some credit, suppose because of some reason, because of unavoidable reason, he gets sick and all, or he's not in a position economically, he's not in a position to continue the study, he or she should be given an opportunity to continue it in near future. So this is what is very, very important. No affiliation. Over next 15 years, colleges will be given graded autonomy and to give degree of their own. Affiliation with universities to end, and so would deemed university status, etc. So these are the things which are going to get out of the stream, and the colleges itself will be given autonomy. It will take some time, but it will be given autonomy for awarding their own degrees. Free cap. Of course, fee cap is very, very important. Proposal to cap free charge private institutions higher learning. You see higher learning private institutions, they will charge fee of their own, and that is exorbitantly high, which is not good. So there has to be a balance between the government institutes and the free institutes in the fee caps. Going global. This is also very, very important. Top-rated global universities to be facilitated to come to India, and at the same time, top Indian institutions will be encouraged to go global. So these are some of the important features which this NEP 2020 is going to implement. It has implemented to some extent also. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, what are the previous policies? It was 1986 to 1992, which is known as NPE 1986/92. The focus largely was issues of access and equity. But major development since the last policy, 1986-1992, has been the right of children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009. This was a major achievement in the country, that there was a right of children to free compulsory education through this act, which laid down legal underpinnings for achieving universal elementary education. That was very, very important. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. You can see this, there's NEP Education Policy 2020. There's universalization of education from preschool to secondary, that is 100% GER. GER is the gross enrollment ratio. This is one matter of concern. It's very important matter of concern that there was a lot of dropout. So GER in higher education to be raised, that was one objective, main objective of this policy. It is to be raised from 50% to 2035, and 3.5 crore seats will be as decided added to the higher education. No rigid separation between academic streams and extracurricular vocational streams in the schools. Then NEP 2020 will bring 2 crore out of school children back into the mainstream, who were the dropouts kind of thing. So that number is very high, which is 2 crore. They will be taken back on the mainstream. Vocational education to start from class 6 with internships. Internships should be organized. New 5+3+3+4 school curriculum with 12 years of schooling, 3 years of Anganwadi and schooling, etc. are the new features of this policy, which will definitely strengthen the education policy. Teaching up to last grade 5 to be in mother tongue, which is at least to class up to class 5, the boys and the girls, they are more used to their mother tongue, so it will be preferred that they can teach them in mother tongue or at least in the regional language. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, principles of NEP 20. Some of them I'll read and rest I will skip, because proposes this purpose is to develop good human beings capable of rational thought and action, processing, comparison and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination with sound technical moorings and values. Fundamental principles include recognition, identification and fostering unique capabilities of each student. This is very, very important. Again, I'm mentioning that each student vary. They are different from one student is definitely different from the other student. So fundamental principles will have they have to be recognized, identified, and for fostering unique capabilities. The unique capability which a particular student has to be defined. It is to be fostered. That is very important. Then flexibility for receiving multidisciplinary and holistic education. Then emphasis on conceptual understanding, creative and critical thinking. Creativity and critical thinking, out of box thinking is very, very important. Then only a person at this age can grow. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. Ethics, empathy, respect to others, courtesy, democratic spirits, spirit of service, respect of public property, responsibility, quality, clearness, justice, etc. should be built. Promoting multilingualism and power of language, life skills, communication, cooperation, teamwork, resilience, etc. should be there. Extensive use of technology, TLN process. As Dr. Janardhan was talking in detail about the TLA, which is teaching, learning, assessment. So the technology is to be used in TLA process to build up. The theory is good, but to build it up, actually when you build it up, we'll have to have a very perfect technology is to be used for strengthening this area. A light but tight regulatory framework to ensure integrity, transparency, and resource efficiency. Outstanding research and continuous review of progress. Outcoming of concept-based learning. You see, our concept-based learning is no doubt very, very important. But if the outcome is not measured properly, if the outcome is not visible properly and then measured properly, then this has no meaning. So a lot of research will also take place side by side, and a review of such programs is very, very important. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. So vision of NEP 2020, I am not going to read it out. This is available anywhere. You know that what is the vision of NEP 2020. In nutshell, I can say that it is the overall improvement of the education system, overall improvement of the teaching learning situation, as well as the teaching learning assessment. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so national education policy focuses, you have the torch, and what are you focusing? You are focusing from theory to other learning, to practical, to global, and all kinds of things, which is the national education policy allows you to focus and to see these, so that the conceptual learning takes place. You know, there are facts, there are concepts, and there are based on facts and concepts, there are principles. So that is to be understood very, very nicely by the students, so that they can deliver, they can think critically, they can deliver, and they can do things at the required hour. Next, please. Next slide. So new education policy gives you the right, it is from education, it gives you the knowledge, right kind of knowledge. Then with time, with the success is there, and then after that, the research is very, very important, and which will finally make you in a position of learning new things. To learning new things is very, very important. If you don't learn things, yeah, this is national education policy, Anganwadi concept. Next, please. Next. आप थोड़ा quickly करा करो ना. Hello, yes. So these are four main educations. What are the educations here? One is the school education, the higher education, the additional key focus, and the transforming education. Next slide, please. Next slide. So higher education is more important for all of you, which is implementation of quality universities and colleges. You have to implement quality universities and colleges who can really deliver the higher education, human as well as social well-being, and finally developing the nation as a whole. Suitable livelihood and economic development of the nation aim to develop good, thoughtful, well-rounded and creative individuals. Provision of identified set of skills, values for the purpose of holistic individuals, moving towards implementation of complete overhaul of the existing system. I will definitely try to focus on this point, because the present board, the present assessment system or the examination system, as the Honorable VC was also time again pointing out this, that the evaluation system needs real vamp and total change, because it needs an overhaul, and it should be more of based on the outcome based. And this is further the same. The higher education will now consist of large number of multidisciplinary university, MDU they call it, multidisciplinary universities or colleges, at least one in every district of all over India. More number of multidisciplinary upgraded institutions will also introduce the education system, and depending on their performance and reputation, such institutes will also be granted autonomy. Because I'm saying that they will be within 20 to 15 years, the colleges will be having autonomy, and there will be no affiliation to universities. They will be only known as multidisciplinary institutes. So revamping of curriculum, as I said, curriculum needs to be revamping, the pedagogy system needs to be revamping, assessment and student support for enhanced student experience. Next, please. Next. Yeah. Establishment of National Research Foundation. They're going to be an NRF to fund outstanding peer review research and activity, speech research, and universities and colleges. Governance of HEI by top qualified independent boards having academic and administrative autonomy, AAA they call it. Foolproof regulatory by single regulatory for the higher education measures, including greater opportunities for outstanding public education, scholarships by private or also the philanthropic, that is a private side of universities for disadvantaged and underprivileged students. This is also a very important point which the government of India has raised, and it has been given in this policy. Then it will have online learning education, open distance learning, provision of infrastructure and learning materials, availability to learn with disability. Main thrust or policy regard HE is to end the fragmentation. The fragmentation is the main this thing, and then rote learning. This is also very, very important. The rote learning is to be avoided. Then HE will have large number of MDs, which is multidisciplinary universities and colleges, and HEI cluster knowledge hubs. Each will aim to have 3,000 or even more students. Next, please. Next. Yeah. Strategies or mechanism for granting graded autonomy to colleges, as I said, then colleges will have encouraged mentor supported incentives to gradually attain the minimum benchmark required for each level of accreditation for such a period of time, over a period of time envisaged that every college would develop into a degree awarding institute. In times to come, HEIs will support under institutions for development. By 2040, HEI should aim to become MDIs. This is very important. More HEIs shall be established. The aim will be to increase the gross enrollment ratio, which is GER, in HE, including vocational educational, from 26.3, which is 2018 record, 26.3% to 50% by the end of 2035. Growth will be in both public as well as private institutions. Strong emphasis will be on developing large number of outstanding private institutions. This is very, very important. Next, please. Next. Yeah, so this is a key principle, national education policy. This slide very easily clear set. One is there are 8 key features. One is the respect for diversity of local context. Second is the faculty of the equality and inclusion. Third is the community participation. Fourth is the use of technology, which I'm telling you again and again, that technology has to be used very, very vastly in improving the education system. Then emphasis on conceptual learning, understanding, and incoming for winning the rote learning, awarding rote learning. Then unique emphasis on I cannot read it. Reorganizing, topping them in the students, and then official thinking, critical thinking, of course, critical thinking and out-of-box thinking. And finally, it is the curriculum review. The curriculum review has to take place from time on and change. Now, single stream instructions will be phased out over time for moving towards vibrant MDIs. New regulatory system policy will foster the cover culture of empowerment of autonomy. And the present complex nomenclatures like deemed to be university, affiliating university, technical university, etc. shall be replaced. They are all going to be out of the system. Simply by universities. They will be replaced by universities on fulfilling the criteria of norms. Next, please. Towards more holistic and multidisciplinary education. This is what we are saying, that by introducing MDEs and MDIs, etc., we'll have multidisciplinary education. Even IITs and NITs will move towards this holistic and MDE with implementation of more of arts and humanity subjects. Imaginative flexibility curriculum structure will enable creative combination of disciplines for study, and will offer multiple entry and exit point credit based system. This is also very important. They will have bank for storing the credits. One person, if he or she leaves it, the study in between, can always come in after some time and rejoin the system. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Structure and length of degree program shall be adjustable accordingly. UG is to 3 to 4 years. However, 4-year degree program will be preferred. Some of the universities, they may go for 3, but 4 is preferred. And academic bank credit, as I said, bank will be there, which is known as ABC. It shall be established to digitally store the academic credits. HEIs will have flexibility to offer different designs of master's program of 2-year student. A requirement for PhD is very important, is either master's or a 4-year bachelor's degree. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, MPhil program will be discontinued. HEIs will focus on research innovations or setting up startups, in incubation centers, technical development centers, frontier areas of research, greater industry academic linkages. These are the important areas, the edge-cutting areas wherein the focus will be more. Interdisciplinary research, including humanities and social sciences research. Optional learning environment and support for students, and internalization. These are some of the features. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. So new chapter has begun from NEP. It has been given by NEP 2020. Earlier, it was 2.7% of GDP of India was used for public spending on education, and 50,000 higher education institutions in order 1.4 million schools are to be operational. 907 universities currently exist in India, and these include 399 state universities, 126 universities, and your public universities, and it's to be universities that deemed to be universities, sorry, 48 central universities and 334 private universities. Now here you nearly 300 million students are pursuing education in India. So it is at least 30% of students in the 6 to 14 age group, and group are in private schools. So about more than 101 billion American dollar is the value of the education market in India for the financial year 2019. But when you prepare a draft, there has to be some NEP process. Now, key proposals are internalization of higher education, vocational education, and will have public-private partnership, then role of central government in funding them, improving the quality education. Vocationalization will have outcome-based teaching learning, then technology adoption to improve access, and spending about 15% of the gross domestic, 15% of GDP will be used for this. And development is relooking students' financial assistance, revamping teacher education system, addressing regional disparities and social gaps, and value education. Value education is very, very important. Next, please. Next. Yeah. So current education across system, if you see the higher education, higher education, it has about 993 universities in the country, and number of colleges about 39,931. Standalone institutes about 10,725. Number of students, as I said, is 26.3%, and school education will have 1.5 million, and which is about 52% in the government schools. And GER security level is very, very less, which is 56.2%. Now, in the year to come, number of students will increase to 240 million, and GER will go 96.9, and for GER at secondary, it will go to 80%, and GER at secondary level is 56.2%. These are the things what at NEP 2020 aiming at. Next, please. Next. Yeah. Financial support is very, very important. Unless there is a financial support, nothing can be achieved. So incentives to meritorious and needy SC, ST and OBC students are there. There is a provision. National Scholarship Portal will be expanded to support, foster and track the progress of students receiving scholarships. Private HEIs will be encouraged to offer large number of free ships and scholarships for their students. Next, please. Next. Next. Yeah. So motivated and energized and capable faculty. What is the faculty will gain? They will get design own curricula. They'll be able to design their own curricula. Smart classrooms will be available. Appropriate rewards will be given. Non-performance punishment. Of course, this earlier slide, please. Earlier slide. पहले वाला slide दिखाइए ना, इसके पहले वाला. Non-performers will be punished, and of course the excellent support faculty, special training for leadership positions, and leadership positions will remain vacant, will not remain vacant. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. So there is a term called post-decrop. Post-decrop is P stands for planning, then it is organizing, then staffing, then directing, then organizing, then repairing, and finally budgeting. So these are the main factors what the NEP 2020 has said for improving the education system. Next, please. Next. Yeah. So you have delivery, equity, and inclusion, DEI they call it. They are fundamental ends. But they are also critical components of the broader organizational missions and effectiveness. So more diverse, equitable and inclusive organizations will attract more and retain talent from range of backgrounds, and they will further more diverse organizations are linked to improve student learning and stronger community connections. Next, please. Next. Next. Yeah, these are the three main pillars. One is the fundamental elements, second is the mechanisms of accountability, and third is the improved student performance. Next, please. Next. Next. Next, please. Yeah, this is very, very important because when you go for any system design, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs is very important. One is the self-acquisition, mortality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, lack of prejudice, and acceptance of facts. These are some of the things which have been taken care for self-actualization. Then esteem, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, and respect by others. So these are the things which are to be inbuilt for improving the system, and it was given by Maslow. Similarly, love, belonging, friendship, family, sexual intimacy, etc. Safety, security of body, employment, resources, morality, the family, health, property, etc. And physiological, health, breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homelessness, excitation, etc. These are very, very important things. So now, teacher education. As I said, the teacher was the center of education, the system. So competency and training programs, transforming the regulatory system for HE, combining communitarianism of education, effective governance and leadership for HEIs. Next, please. Next. Next, please. Other key areas of focus, the preferential education, technical education will also aim to be offered with MDEIs. As I said, they're going to make the MDI, multidisciplinary universities. So cutting edge areas will be covered. For example, AI, 3D, machining, and big data analysis, machine learning, deep learning, genomic studies, biotechnology, neuroscience, nanotechnology, etc. Then mechatronics, environmental science, sustainable living, etc. These are the things, the key areas where the focus is more. Next, please. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. Promotion of Indian language and culture, very, very important. I have explained it earlier also. Technology use of integration, very important. PhD and master's degree in machine learning, AI and other related multidisciplinary courses relating AI. This is also becoming very, very large. Platforms like Satyam, Swayam, distance learning modes maybe, or other distance learning modes may be used for disseminating knowledge and skill. Next, please. Next, please. Now, online and digital education ensuring equitable use of technology. The pilot studies for online education, the digital infrastructure, online teaching platform or tools for Swayam, Diksha, etc., e-learning platforms, content creation, digital respiratory and dissemination, addressing the digital divides, virtual laboratories, training and incentives for teachers, etc. These are online and digital education ensuring. Next, please. Online assessment and examination, laying down standards, creating directed unit for building world-class digital infrastructure for education, digital content, making it happen, strengthening the Central Advisory Board education, financing affordable and quality education for implementation of the scheme as a whole. This is very important. Unless you have the budget, the financial assistance, nothing can be achieved. Next, please. Next. Next, please. A role of NEP 2020 in research and innovation. How does it play its role? The present R&D expenditure of the country is only 0.8% of the GDP, aimed to be enhanced to 1.5% of the national GDP. Inputs have been obtained from various states of country: Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, UP, MP, etc. are the leading states who have provided their inputs in this area. Ahmednagar, Aurangabad, Pune, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Lucknow. These are some of the places, such cities, they have extensively gone for this, the hexathon, etc. They have participated. Next, please. Next. Yeah, recommendations. Inter-subject needs to be boosted. More financial investment is essentially required. More of research to be promoted at the institute level. Every student should get opportunity to pursue research of his choice. Local language-based education and environmental studies, and action research in the field of education, business and industries, international outcome report on the new education policy, and some measures are needed to develop research capabilities of teachers and students. These are the recommendations obtained. Some of them are, please, next. Now, strategies for developing research capabilities. Outcome-based research financing. Outcome-based studies, outcome-based learning, outcome-based evaluation, outcome-based research financing. This is very, very important. If this is directly related, as Professor Janardhan was also saying, that if you have a summative type of report, then only you can say that yes, it is outcome-based, and that is to be linked very carefully. Then liberal research grants for both social sciences and basic sciences is needed. Setting up of incubation centers with provision of speed money for taking up research. Then research leading to creation of IPRs, intellectual property rights, are very important. Setting up of KBR, knowledge-based research parks in central education institutions. Creation of rural Udyog Vadis. Organization of research and related conferences, seminars, workshops, and setting up of research parks in universities linking teaching and research. Next, please. Next slide. Foundation of Innovation Universities, FDP, MRP, etc. are very important. Developing monitoring and motivational incentive-based programs for linking education with research, creating and conductive conditions to carry out quality interdisciplinary research. You have research, but it should be interdisciplinary. More focus is on interdisciplinary, and it should be a quality one, and it should be outcome-based. Next, please. Definition. Now we come to entrepreneurship. The definition of entrepreneurship is like this. Entrepreneurship is the creation for extraction of values. With this definition, entrepreneurship is viewed as change, generally entailing risk beyond that what is normally encountered in starting up a business, which may include other values than is simply economic ones. This is Wikipedia's guidelines. Next, please. So what are the characteristics? One is the risk-taking capacity, market survey capability, project preparation skills, teamwork approach, respect for others and professions, soft skills, for example, communication, humanity, equality, etc., and managerial skills. These are characteristics what an entrepreneur should have. Next, please. Next slide. The types of entrepreneurship, there are 4. Anyone interested in starting and running their own business should consider with entrepreneurial modes like small business, scalable startup, large company और social entrepreneur. कौन सा लेना है ये आपको correctly judge करना पड़ेगा.
कहाँ पे complete करना है?
Next, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Personality development program. This is also a part.
अच्छा ठीक है. तो नंबर हमें भेजो. Complete कर दे.
Internal personality, external personality, professional programs for developing an ideal personality, arranging entrepreneurship camps and on-the-job trainings. These are very important. I think MMU Gorakhpur, there's also Technical University Gorakhpur should also have there's on-the-job training programs or entrepreneurial camps for their students. Next, the skill capital. We are now talking that India has become the skill capital of the world. So what is that? The paradigm shift from job seekers to job providers. This is the paradigm shift. So coming out of the VUCA word, अगर VUCA को देखें आप, V stands for volatile, U stands for uncertain, C stands for complex, A stands for ambiguous, and this is what is important from the education point of view, from the technical education point of view, that it should have the VUCA implemented. And in the NEP 2020 has very nicely given this suggestion in this document. From the rote learning to skill learning, it should be skill. From the rote learning to skill learning, that is more important. And I always talk of three things: attitude, skill, and knowledge, which is ask. A stands for attitude, S stands for skill, and K stands for knowledge. And out of these three, I think the highest order is the attitude, then comes the skill, and finally it is the knowledge. Basic knowledge is very, very important. If you see the pyramid, the base is knowledge, but every knowledge is not required. But every skill is required. You have to be multi-skilled. These days, the student has to be a multi-skilled worker, and attitude should be positive. If you are positive in your attitude, the skill and knowledge will follow. And then you
I think sir is disconnected. Please wait for a few minutes.
I think Chatterjee sir is not able to connect.
Yes, sir, he has lost his internet connection.
Yeah, it seems. Let us wait.
Okay, sir.
Hello, hello. Am I audible, please? So I was talking to the skill capital. Next slide, please. आगे का slide लगाइए, please. Yeah. So women entrepreneurship is also very, very important these days. So woman empowerment in sector with medical, sports, defense, aerospace, management, engineering and technology, arts and humanities. You are saying that all these sectors, the women are playing very important roles. So that is a big achievement. Special benefits for entrepreneurs, the tax benefits, easy payments of loans, less interest in payments of loans, then less ease of business, ease of land procurement, and transparent and easy regulations. Next, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Hello. The Azad, the All India Agricultural Hackathon is one of the examples, most latest, which took place in 2017 March 2021, and this was a new challenge, Azad Ka Amrit Mahotsav. A 3-day virtual event was organized, and that was possible focus areas were water wastage, because this is for kisans, farmers, sales of yield, marketing, and usage of water for specific crops. The AI tools which were used, the platforms which were used are the TensorFlow, the Coral, the Jacquard, and the Google Cloud. These are the things which were used for this hackathon. Next, please. The shortlisting procedure was proposed solution, the product fit, the technical feasibility, the scalability solutions. Selected prototypes and teams will get opportunity to partner with HUL, Google, to further develop their prototype. This was given by Government of India for product to platform to roll out to farmers in the field of long-term impact. Next. Shortlisting procedures. Yeah, what were the outcome of the hackathon? Multiple prototypes to take forward and roll out to the field to test and further develop them. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, the budget webinar 2021-2022. This was very important. The consultations with stakeholders for implementation of budget initiatives, which is my government initiative members, for the general public to share their ideas and suggestions on the budget. My government invites members. The key announcements in the field of infrastructure, power and renewable energy, health, defense, education, and many more. Now let us see what are these. Yeah, ongoing discussions are infrastructure, power and renewable energy, health, defense, education, agriculture, investment and public assessment management, and finance. You can visit this www.mygovernment.in and this will give you the detailed list. These are under discussions in Government of India. Next, please. And what is consultation with stakeholders for implementation of budget initiative? This is number one. Next. Consultation with stakeholders for implementation of budget initiatives. Next. Consultation with stakeholders, again budget initiatives. Next. Consultation with stakeholders for stakeholders. Next. Consultation with stakeholders for implementation of budget initiatives. So these are some of the consultation with stakeholders for implementation of budget initiatives on agriculture sector. This is on a DPAM lead sector. So these are the sectors. Then finally, it was on financial sector also. Now, the final part of it, as I told you that I have to do little bit on the examination reforms also. So I have done it as per the AICT policy November 2018. Next slide, please. The policy says mainly it introduces what is reform, examination reform, then assessment strategy of outcome-based education, OBE they call it. It has mapping program, outcome, that is POs to assessment examination, two-step process for bringing clarity to POs, program outcomes, competencies, and performance indicators, PIs. These are the things which have been dealt in the chapter 2. Then chapter 3 was improving structure and quality assessment. How do you improve the structure and for quality assessment? Then Bloom's taxonomy has been dealt with in detail for assessment design, action verbs of assessment, assessing planning. Assessment planning was also done. Then assessment higher order ability and professional skills. Then which has innovation education experience to teach and assess using scoring rubrics and assessment tools and open book examinations. Now, Professor Janardhan was also talking about all these things. So I will quickly have some slides in assessment strategy. So what are the points? Number one, some of the points I have jotted down. Number one is the mapping program outcome for assessment. So the outcome is to be mapped for the assessment is to be done by mapping the program outcomes for the course, and then only the assessment can be done. Next slide, please. Next. Second point is the two-step two-step preparation process for bringing out the POs. How do you bring out the POs? You have to write POs for every lesson actually. Next, third step. Third step is, so for example, if you see the two POs, example, say program outcome attribute 3 is to design. One is the attribution, second is the design. So PO3, if you take for any lesson, so design, development and solutions. Design, development solutions, design school solutions for complex engineering and problems. So we can do some engineering business here. We can take some complex engineering examples and do it. So competencies, then you have to design the system, component and process that to meet the specified needs with appropriate consideration to public health, study, and cultural, societal, and environmental conditions. So competencies are to demonstrate an ability to define a complex, that demonstrate the ability to generate a diverse, and demonstrate an ability to select the optional design. And finally, it is demonstrate an ability to advance an engineering design for the defined state. So these are some of the points. Then again, you have some example for the competencies, which is 2. So demonstrate the ability to generate a diverse set of alternative design solutions, because you may have different design solutions, but if you have to achieve a better competency, then you have to redesign, and alternative design solution is to be given. Then performance indicators. How do you indicate the performance? Then apply formal idea to generate tools for developing multiple engineering design solutions. Build models, prototypes, algorithms to define the diverse and design solutions, and identify the functional and non-functional criteria for evaluation of attempt design schools. Next. So it should be noted that when we consider the program outcome, it looks like it can achieve only in the capstone project. But if we consider the competence and performance indicators, we start seeing the opportunities of discussing them and in various courses of its program. So once the above process is completed, the program the assessment of COs for all the courses is designed. Once you have these POs, then you have to design the COs for all the process, and they are to be designed by connecting the assessment questions and then following the process. Then the examination question maps with PIs, and we get the clarity and other resolutions for the assessment of COs and POs. The pictorial representation can be in the next figure. It is shown like that. Next diagram, please. Next, yeah. So it is there's a program outcome, that is PO is there. Then you have the competencies, which is to attain, that is CA, and then performance indicators, which is PI, and finally it is the assessment. So you have to have competency 1.1, competency 1.2, competency 1.3, and so on. These are the program outcomes. From program outcomes, you have competency 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and then we have PI 1.1.1, PI 1.1.2, PI 1.1.3, PI 1.2.1, PI 1.2. These are the different levels, and 3.1, and similarly 3.3, 3.2, and 3.3. And this is the finally you get the profession undone, and then you can finally assess how you can assess the whole program. So this is the connecting POs to assessment. Now continued, we will have some program outcomes. So let us see what this is the third step, that is the program outcomes. So yes, next please. Next. Yeah. So taking up an example, so here these slides, there are 3-4 slides here, wherein I have put some of the POs, for example, in the engineering knowledge. So what competency it should have, what indicator it should have. You have to clearly write the competency, and how do you indicate? For example, demonstrate competency of mathematical modeling. So the indicators will be apply mathematical techniques such as your options. I cannot read it. Calculus, then linear algebra, etc. And similarly, you can write different indicators for this particular competency. Then you have another competency 1.2. Then you have another competency 1.3. Another competency 1.3. This is for PO1. PO1 is defined first, and then depending on that PO1, what is the program outcome, you have to write the competencies in detail. So there could be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, or even it could be more. And depending on what indicators, you have to clearly write them. Then you similarly go for PO2. Then next, please. Next slide. Yeah, then PO2 will have different your 2.2, 2.2.1, 2.2.2, 2.2.3. For example, 2.2 is demonstrate an ability to formulate the solution plan and methodology for an engineering problem. This is your CO 2.2. So the indicators are reframe complex problem and sub problems. Reframe the problems into sub problems. So indicators are how to improve them. So these are the indicators. So one PO will have many indicators: 2.2.1, 2.2.2, 2.2.3, 2.2.4, and so on. Similarly, you have 2.3, you have 2.4, and so on. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So there is another PO. Now that two POs were over, now PO number 3 has come. For that also, you have to make a chart like this. So you have to write the competencies and the indicators. You have to clearly write the what are the competencies, what are the indicators. Similarly, PO4. next. PO4. PO4 is the competency is 4.1 and the indicators are 4.1.1, 4.1.2, 4.1.3, 4.1.4, and so on. Next, please. You can have 4.2, 4.3, etc. For the idea is for every PO you have to write the competencies and then the indicators. Write the competencies. For one PO there could be so many competencies, and for one competency there could be so many indicators. So 4.2 has 4.2.1, 4.2.2, 4.3, which is the demonstration of ability to analyze data and reach valid conclusion. This is suppose your competency. Then indicators are 4.3.1, use appropriate procedure, tools and techniques to conduct experiments and collect them. So similarly, you can have 4.3.2, 4.3.3, 4.3.4, and so on. Next. Similarly, it is a PO5. PO5 have competencies 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. The 5.1 competency has two indicators, 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. The 5.2 competency has two indicators, 5.2.1, 5.2.2. The 5.3 competency has 5.3.1, two indicators, 5.3.1, 5.3.2. Next, please. Next. Similarly, on the same lines, you have another program outcome, which is PO6. For example, this is the engineering activity. Engineer and society. This is the program outcome. So you have to write the competencies 6.1 and it has 6.1.1 as the indicator. 6.2, it has the 6.21 is the indicator. Next, please. Next. Yeah, similarly, you have PO7, 7.1, competency 7.1.1, 7.1.2, 7.2, 7.2.1, and 7.2.2. Next, please. Next. You have next program outcome, which is the 8th program outcome. It has the competency of 8.1 and 8.2, and the indicators of 8.1.1, 8.2.1, and 8.2.2. Similarly, you have PO9. PO9 have 9.3 competencies, 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. And the competencies indicators are 9.1.1, 9.1.2, 9.2 has 9.2.1, 9.2.2, 9.2.3, and 9.2.4. And similarly, 9.3, which is the competency, has got 9.3.1 as the indicator. Next, please. Next. This is program outcome 10. On the same lines, you can see that the depending on the program outcome, you have to first clearly decide and spell out the competency, and for every competency, the indicators are to be decided. Next. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, so I'm not going to repeat it because it is the same lines, PO11, then PO12, like that, you have to very clearly define and spell out the competencies first and then the indicators. Now, when you do this, the competency, when you have designed for a program outcome, first of all, the program outcome is to be defined very clearly. What does this program outcome? It may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As I said, this is 11 and then you have 12. Suppose there are 12 program outcomes. Every program outcome is to be clearly defined and it is to be explained that what kind of outcome you are going to write and what kind of program outcome you are going to spell out for real learning to take place. And every program outcome will have different outcomes and your indicators, your different competencies and indicators. So at the end, I would like to only thank you for a patient hearing. I'm very sorry there were certain disruptions because of internet failure. But then this is very, very important. And as Dr. Janardhan was also doing, I'm not a part of it, but I am 100% sure that quality assessment is to be there. And he was in a nutshell saying that summative assessment should be there. So you are requested to do it in your next this thing. I think it will be very useful if you can do certain exercises during this whole course. With these words, I would like to thank you all. And if you have any queries, you may ask me, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful lecture, sir. Participant side, participant, please, if you have any queries, participant.
Really, sir, very wonderful lecture, very wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Participant, if you have any queries, please ask. I think, sir, there is no questions. I would like to thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and shower your blessing always, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Avdesh ji. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I'm closing this session and we'll be meet at 3 p.m. sharp with the same link. Stop with it.